Welcome one, welcome all to the 2017 iRacing World Series of events here live on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. Tonight is the first of many amazing events, and it is going to be a good one. It is the Roar of the 24 here at Daytona International Speedway. 3 different sets of cars, 52 cars on track, split between those 3 different classes, and boy, it looks like it is going to be a good one. You've got the Mustang, the Kia Optima, and the MX-5. So do join us here for the next 2 hours and 24 minutes of racing here on RaceSpotTV, iRacingLive. We'll be back in just a moment's time. Here at Daytona, since the 60s, they have been running sports cars around this legendary circuit. Of course, 2.5 miles on the oval, 3.56 here today with the road course. 11 corners is going to be our track layout for today, your standard road course layout. And it is going to be a very unstandard race, because the cars that we have collected for you today not normally would see each other. They're going to see each other here at Daytona, and it is going to be a good one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the beginning of the 2017 World Tour events, the Roar before the 24 hours of Daytona on RaceSpotTV. I'm Cameron Walsh, and joined today by Randy Chenhout and Alvin Nieves helping out, as well as Hugo Louis producing and on the cameras. We are going to be bringing to you the next 2 hours and 24 racing minutes here on RaceSpotTV. You've got 3 different class of cars, and Randy, it's an interesting combination. You've got the Ford Mustang, the Kia Optima, the MX-5.
Yeah, this sort of car classification that we see tonight, Cam, it's normally what we'd see in something like a Continental Sports Car Challenge race, but this is sort of bridging the gap between 2 different generations of even that championship. Typically, I mean, their top GS class, relatively similar in pace to that FR500S Mustang, but starting in 2017, they're moving over to GT4 spec cars, and our Kia Optima is very close to that. So we're sort of bridging the gap, kind of merging 2017 as well as 2016 of that championship that we're seeing here tonight with these 3 specs of cars.
Absolutely, and then you cannot forget the legendary Mazda MX-5 that, of course, currently racing. That actual car that we have here on the iRacing service is actively racing in the Continental Series in the lower bracket, and of course very popular with the fans, always looked at as a little bit of the underdog, and boy, here today at Daytona, it is going to put on a good show. In case you've never seen an SCCA race possibly, or any race around the world, the most raced sports car in the world, the Mazda MX-5, you're going to see a great show here as these MX-5s I mean, Randy, once you get a pack of 10 or 15 of these cars, it just turns into an amazing racing event.
I always love watching these cars do various endurance events. I always love VLN because we had the Kia and we had the Miata. Unfortunately, due to the popularity of the GT3 spec of cars, they always, kind of struggled with the numbers comparatively. But here tonight, we're talking, we have, I think it's a total of 52 cars, and they're pretty much split evenly down the middle between the three classes. So it's really, really good to see a strong field of Kias, Mustangs, and MX-5s. MX-5s always put on a good show. We know that those cars can go a long time on a tank of fuel. The Kia, comparatively, not really so much. The Mustang, I think, is going to be somewhere in between. But I think this is going to be a good race tonight. 3 different specs of cars. You have, a big American front-engine rear-wheel drive V8. You have the little Japanese, like you said, most popular sports car in the world. And you have that front-wheel drive, closest thing to a touring car we have currently. Everything about these cars is just different in every single way.
Of course, humbling from South Korea, Kia is, as in the iRacing YouTube chat. Hello, everybody, and the timing chat, the timing link has now been posted, so you guys will be able to look at the timing as we go along. And of course, the Kia, you would think perhaps it would go a little bit slower than that Mustang, but with those slicks and the fact that without any real aero dependencies, that little Kia can start going right on trucking. And it ends up probably hitting about as fast as just about a GT3 car going down these banks. And that is why they're well on top as far as the lap charts go. So for your lap times, it's going to be Kia, Mustang, MX-5 for you following at home. So right now at the very tippity top of the warm-up session is a guy by the name of Michael Schellbach. And not that far behind is David E. Baker and Jake Blackhall. And Randy, anybody that's familiar with the Kia series, the touring car series that we have, many number of them, as well as the VLN series, will know familiar with many of these names in all classes. But the Kias especially, it seems like quite the star-studded field.
It really is. There are a handful of drivers that I think could really run strong this entire event, and especially the format of any race at Daytona. The draft is going to be a huge talking point all the way to the end. Michael Schellbach is obviously a quick driver. Jake Blackhall is an Australian and one of our RaceSpot employees, we'll say, and Jake's very quick. Simon Trundle, teammate of mine. Simon's very quick. David's very quick. Reese Garnier, he knows how to wheel a car. Jordan Weeks as well. So that top class in the Kias is very, very, it's a very quick field.
And a very good-looking field is, just the paint schemes that we have today. You've got, of course, the PRT, the Pure Racing Team schemes. Then you've also got that Broken Arrow paint scheme from one of the cars.
Literally Microsoft Paint.
It's not. It was.
Look at the side of it.
It was clearly GIMP. And that
yeah,
is, of course,
I think you're right.
Matt Pavelski.
There's no way Pavelski can afford paint. He needs the freeware of GIMP.
Yeah, like he couldn't even get the MS paint. But you know what? That's okay, as the car, it doesn't have any arrow, so truly it is a broken arrow car. Of course, normally an Indy car. But here today, got some fenders on it, got that lovely bit of chrome and that lovely Kia. And he's going to be ripping that around Daytona International Speedway. The race is going to be starting in about 4 minutes. 4 minutes time, we're going to start taking the grid. We've got a reconnaissance lap, and we'll get to green. So as you can just see, Matt Pavelski, he just rips by one of those MX-5s. He's going about 171, 170 going into corner number 1. The MX-5 that was following him behind.
127 with a draft.
Yeah, well, that's actually not that bad, Randy. As far as other classes that we've seen in the past in the VLN series, that's really not that bad.
Yeah, it's really not a big difference in terms of speed. That little four-banger, it needs some help. What we see at the Nürburgring, it gets a little bit of help from the downhill section of the Dartner Ho. It gets going a little bit quicker than it does here, but I think for that reason, this is actually, even though there's 3 different classes and you have a big 60-car field basically here, I think that generally speaking, this is going to be an easy race in terms of traffic management, because actually across these 3 classes, all the time really that you make up on the other, the slower cars, or that the quicker cars make up on you, is mostly happening in a straight line. All these cars are going to corner at roughly the same rates of speed, and for that reason, you're not really going to be able to throw any crazy dive bombs like you might see out of a prototype, or a DP or the HPD, or even a Radical for some of the other events that happen throughout the year, various leagues and whatnot. And that's going to make things relatively simple, especially if you're in that Miata, because that Miata is so small and so light, you can actually brake pretty dang late in that thing, and it's really hard for a Mustang or a Kia to really get inside of you if they don't have that 60 to 70 mile an hour speed advantage going into one.
Yeah, and it's all three of these cars, they all have anti-lock brakes today. So for the broadcast graphics, let me explain just a little bit. The Kias are going to be with the red band today. It says Ford GT, but I assure you it's a Ford Mustang. Is going to be in the blue labels, and the silver labels are going to be your MX-5 division. So if you're looking at the timing screen or you're looking at the overlays, you'll know just as well. And just looking at the other classes in our Mustangs, your fastest right now, Jeff Jacobs, Aero Nam, and Ben Kalau is following right behind. They're actually split apart by less than 0.4 of a second. Aero actually just went a little bit faster. And then you go to your MX-5s, and Randy, for the MX-5s, again, familiar names. I mean, you've got, Logan Clampett, you've got Cy Andra, you've got Giuseppe Inuki. I mean, you've got names that are you see fairly often, and hopefully they're going to be able to put on a good show with that draft.
Yeah, there are some really popular names. Within that Miata, you have, Sonny Kanchan. He's very quick. We know that. Logan Clampett, of course, peak antifreeze series driver, came away from that 2016 season with a win at New Hampshire. And like you said, Cy Andra, Richard Losper, look out for him. That's a GSRC driver. And the GSRC guys, even though we might be competitors in terms of on the broadcast, GSRC know their way around both that Miata as well as these Mustangs. Obviously, they're the broadcasters that cover that Continental Tire Championship, which has literally been the Mustang and the Mazda for about 3 or 4 years now. So those GSRC guys, if the one or two of them that I think are in this race, they're definitely people to look out for across those two divisions. And really just thinking about that Continental Tire Series, there are a lot of names I recognize from that championship. Jeff Jacobs is a seasoned veteran in that in the Mustang. And, there's a couple down there in the Miata as well. Richard Losper, a shining example. So I think this is going to be a really exciting event.
Now, it certainly will be. Cars are going to be rolling out onto the grid, and as such, we're going to start going through that grid. Just a couple of notes, though, for the iRacing faithful. The iRating split today, 41.88 for the top split. The FR 500S has a top average of 39.15, 3,915. The Kia Optima, about 4,100, and the MX-5s, actually, 4,500. So the MX-5s actually have the highest average iRating, and at the top of that chart is Sonny Kanchan with a 7,800 higher than Logan Clampett. So, with that, cars are going to start rolling onto the grid. They're actually going to start here on the backstretch. We're going to cue up some of that good, lovely music behind that roof pace car, that brand new official pace car. Used to be the Ford Mustang. Well, now it's in the field. Now we've got that roof RD12R that's going to be leading the pacing. And as such, we'll get right into it with the grid. Michael Schellbach with a 149.772 qualified on top as the cars are rolling away. Jake Blackhall, Simon Trendell, David E. Baker, Juani Lopez, and Sven Glatzel. The cars are actually on the backstretch, so we're going to have to hurry this up a little bit as they're cycling through. We'll go to the top 5 or 10 in the Mustangs, top 5 or 10 in the MX-5s, and we'll get underway for the 2 hours and 24-minute event. Aero Nam is on pole in the Mustangs. Ben Callow, Dan Constantis, Dave Hoffman, Jeff Jacobs, Nathan Saxon, and Travis Davis in the Mustangs, as well as a slew of many others, including Attila Papp and Kyle Young. Up front, it's going to be on the grid the car of Sonny Kanchan, Giuseppe Inuki, Logan Clampett, Gresham Wagner, Travis Shredsky, Richard Losper, and Cy Andra. So many names, many different storylines that we're going to see here over the next 2 hours and 24 minutes as the pace car looks to pull away and start the 2017 World Tour Series. As we look to go live here on RaceSpotTV for the first time in the World Tour Series here for 2017. will say goodbye to that pace car, and it'll all go to the right foot of Michael Schellbach. Green flag in the air. Michael Schellbach is going to pull his number 8 Kia out and away. He's going to keep his way to the inside. The Kia's looking to make a clean start. Somebody already looking to the outside as Reese Gardner looking to possibly be aggressive as the Kias run on through here. Turn 1 is typically very tricky. Leads right up into corner number 2. Then you go to this very tricky infield section. Kias look like they have a clean start. Let's go to the Mustangs. Mustangs are getting away. They're going into corner number 1. Ben Callow is he's coming away with it. Of course, the 6-speed manual transmission using that clutch. Unlike the sequential in the Kias, these guys are really muscling these cars, heel to toe, everything, as they're going in through the International Horseshoe. And then you look back to the MX-5s, and already one MX-5 leaving the pits. He started from the grid. Took a little bit of an early lead, James Stevenson, but Sonny Katchen is your leader in the MX-5s. Logan Clampett not that far behind as the MX-5s are working through. Randy, you know what? It looks like a clean start so far.
Yeah, really clean start. That leader of James Stevenson in that Miata class, like you said, he started from the pits, and just with the fact that the Miatas and Mustangs leave a gap to the cars in front of them, James is able to get that early lead. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that it's not really the most sporting thing in the world, but James Stevenson is someone who's very quick in those Miatas, so he would have made his way up the field anyways. So, for the most part, this entire field has gotten itself clean through the entirety of this first half of the lap. The entire Kia field, for the most part, except for a couple back markers in the back, is single file. Everyone utilizing that draft as they go through the bus stop for the first time. Michael Schellbach has got himself out to a pretty decent lead already, Cam, and here at Daytona, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to try to separate that draft as much as you can early. It's not quite enough, but I think over time, the likes of Jake Blackhall and Simon Cavell are going to reel in that pure racing team car of Michael Schellbach here in the coming laps. You see right now, and trouble right now for the 15. I believe that was actually a slowdown through the bus stop. No damage on that car, but he's going to cycle to the back of the pack, and if he's not careful, he's going to lose that draft to the cars in front. But like we said, second and third already on the back of the leaders.
Yeah, something has happened to David Baker's car. This is way more time than I would ever expect unless he managed to pick up.
It's the first lap. On the first lap, when you get a black
that's
flag,
a massive
it bases it off your average lap speed that you've done. And because you haven't done a lap yet, the first lap you actually do get punished more severely.
Oh, so for David E. Baker, he is going to have to really hustle his way back. That is too unfortunate. Looking at the lead for the Mustangs, Arrow Nam has taken it back from Ben Callow. And these are two paint schemes that I already know I'm going to be liking. The Mustang field, I have a feeling I'm already going to be really enjoying as far as the paint schemes go. We don't normally see these Mustangs, Randy. We don't get a chance to commentate on these. We had a chance to drive these, and I have to say, we didn't seem to drive them very well. But,
yeah, saying we drove them that's some very strong verbiage.
We attempted to navigate around a racetrack once. That was as far as we could go. I also noticed that the racing team, sponsored, of course, by Hugh Jass, is here today in force with 3 cars, and so of course I'm sure they are going to be out in force today, and the Mustang is going to be an interesting one to watch because they have that standard transmission and all that power on the DOT spec tires.
Yeah, for those who have never really run this FR500S Mustang, I'll kind of run down to you what this Mustang really actually is. And this is, once upon a time in the United States, around 07, 08, so about 10 years ago, there used to be a series called the Mustang Challenge, and the FR500S that we have within iRacing is the spec car that they used. And essentially, this race car is a Mustang GT that they took off the assembly line, they left it stripped out, they inserted a roll cage, they put a rear wing on it, they put a slightly shorter rear gear in it, and they basically they put DOT sport tires on it and essentially put stiffer shocks on it. It is essentially a Mustang GT you could buy in 2007, 2008. So that's why these things aren't super quick in a straight line, especially with that rear wing. But really what really hurts these cars in terms of pace games, you said it, the DOT tires. Big heavy car like this, you really do have to be careful with driving this thing around and not overheat those tires, especially in a 2-hour and 24-minute long event.
I will say, I'm noticing our cameras. We have the gyro camera attached to the steering wheel looking back at the driver in one of these cars. That is a very trippy camera angle for me. We just had a change for the lead in the MX-5s. Logan Clampett just went up to the front there, and in the Kias, we also have some battling with, I believe, Michael Schellbach getting a challenge from Jake Blackhall, but it looks like Jake Blackhall was not successful in his attack. That number 37 car, of course, looking to possibly try to go on through, but We're keeping our eyes on the MX-5 as, Randy, it is the massive pack of MX-5s. This is what we expect, going too wide, the number 1 car and the number 2 car going into corner number 1. Here they're going to come through corner number 1, exit on corner number 1, come right on through past number 2, kind of a little S's section here, kicking up a bunch of sand before they get to the International Horseshoe, or International Horseshoe 1, as it's lately been called. Sonny Canchin keeping a good edge over Logan Clampett. That was some good side-by-side running. But, Randy, they're going to hit 4 and 5, and that's where the opportunity starts coming to really attack.
Yeah, really going into turn 5 is, a lot of people don't think of it as a good passing opportunity, but in these slower cars, it's so much longer of a run that you can actually make a move going up into corner number 5. We don't see anyone really doing it just yet. You actually see, though, Logan Clampett, someone misjudging, and he runs a little wide on entry. He's able to get a good launch off this corner, though, and I think Sonny, he's either going to have a car to his outside or he's going to have to go to defensive going into turn 6, but no, actually, Logan's going to get out of it. You always want to make sure you get yourself, kill some cones, rip cones 2017. You always want to make sure that you get a good run coming out for corner number 6, Cam. Even if you have the option to go to the outside of someone, if there's just cars behind you, you want to just give that line back up and make sure you can get to the apex. Because if you don't, those cars behind you that do, they're just going to have a 2 to 3 mile an hour advantage as they come onto the straight. And you see Logan Clampett right now using the draft of that Miata in that JDR Graphics number 2, and he's going to put himself to the point. And I think Sonny's going to try to slot himself into 3rd as you have James Stevenson pushing Logan into the bus stop here for the 3rd time.
And, of course, while that action's going on in MX-5, the Kias are wasting no time at all in making it as well as dramatic, as Michael Schellbach is, of course, still your leader, but Jake Blackhall put on a good attack, didn't make it that time. Simon Trendell is now there, Juani Lopez, as they get onto the backstretch. Coming in it through corner number 7, as that is the banking, of course. This would be NASCAR 2 coming off, heading towards the bus stop. You've got 8, 9, 10, and 11 all in that bus stop chicane. You can look at Jake Blackhall. He's catching up speed here. Massive draft coming through. The hole that these Kias punch is gargantuan, to say the least, as far as aerodynamics go. That allows these Kias to suck up right with one another. I would not expect Michael Schellbach to get very far. I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Blackhall doesn't lead this lap simply by virtue of the draft, but Michael Schellbach is going to have option of where he takes that line. He is always going to take the inside going into 1. And here goes Jake Blackhall. He should pick up the timing screen. And here comes Simon Trendell. Simon Trendell might go below the apron to make it interesting. He might decide to think better of it, and he will. He'll let out of it. That's a very smart move to make early in a race. You can get very excited and allow yourself to start making very aggressive maneuvers. And Michael Schellbach on the inside. Will they touch doors? I think their mirrors might have traded a little bit of paint. But Michael Schellbach is actually doing fairly well on the counterattack. Jake Blackhall, though, he's going to have the inside line going into the International Horseshoe 1. Will Simon Trendell make an attack? No, he will not. And, Randy, we now have a change for lead officially. Jake Blackhall, he had a fight for that one.
Yeah, but Michael's not far away from him as they come now into the International Horseshoe. Jake wasn't able to, really, if you're going to get a move done if you're going to try a move going into corner number 1, your only chance of being able to break the draft by the time you get back to the oval is actually to get that move done going into turn number 1. But that Pure Racing team driver of Michael Schellbach, he did a great job to actually stay very, very close to Jake Blackhall through corner number 1 and actually maintain his lead. But as I say that, he really missed the entry of corner number 1 there, outbroke himself a little bit because of that. Jake's going to have a little bit of an advantage in speed as they come off that corner. The draft will, of course, bring that back, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Now, I don't know if Michael's going to be able to make an attack here going into the bus stop. Looks like he might try. As far as Simon Trendell is concerned, I'm actually not expecting him to make any moves really until deep into this race. Simon's not the kind of driver to go out there and just throw it up the inside of someone 5 laps into a 2.5-hour race. He's going to wait to gain his advantages through the pit stops and over the duration of this event. My guess right now is that Chimera driver, Simon Trendell, is likely saving fuel. Go ahead, Cam.
We are looking out of the pictures of the rear of the number 28, well, the front of the number 28 car, and here come the Kias. Here they come along the outside, going about 50 miles an hour faster. It's the entire fleet of Kias as they intercept like a pair of fighter pilots intercepting an extraordinarily overweight and obese C-130 Hercules on the outside. They have enveloped this MX-5 field, and now it is going to get extraordinarily dramatic here as Schellbach is now certainly in the traffic. He's got about 10 cars ahead of him as he is going to have to try to navigate that through traffic. Jake Blackhall making his way through as Simon Trendell looking to possibly take advantage of it. Wani Lopez is almost so there in the Kias as they're trying to get by MX-5s. There goes Ivan Fernandez. There goes Richard Losper as they're going right through this pack like Randy, I'm going to run out of puns well too quickly for this, but Craig Hunter is now on the next list is JB Masita, also a very good MX-5 driver. Alec Krapser is they're looking through. Alex Krasper, oh, he's going to possibly have to hold them up. And look at it dancing on the outside. Jake Blackhall is a little bit of tire smoke from Michael Schellbach as going through here. They come on the exit now as Gusapi Inuiki and Gresham Wagner. And then you've got Travis Schwacke, Logan Clampett, and then Sonny Kenshin. So for the first time, James Stevenson is still out front there. But Randy, that is just, it is impressive to say the least, as the Kias have absolutely enveloped in one lap the MX-5 field in its entirety. I am surprised nothing happened.
That was very well done by all parties involved, because there were a couple crazy moments there throughout that infield where you had Kia drivers being aggressive because they don't want to lose all sorts of time because of how important the draft is at a circuit like this. And you had the MX-5 drivers who, while they want to do the same, they also have survival on their minds. And the fact that both grids got through that unscathed, and the fact that no large gaps really formed, is actually rather impressive, all things considering. Jake Blackhall, I'm sure, is loving the fact that he's going to lead himself another lap here as they come through the tri-oval, and by the looks of things, he's going to hold on to that lead position as they go into corner number one. Looks like the fourth spot of Wani Lopez looking to the outside of Simon Trendell here, but not quite able to get there and get it done, so Simon's going to hold on to third.
Yes, he is, and Jake Blackhall there now working his way through as they have cleared the MX-5s. It won't be that long before they start closing in on the Mustangs. Let's actually focus on the MX-5s now. They've let the Kias go on by. They let the big boys have their fun there, as I believe one car possibly has spun out somewhere on the track. Richard Losper has lost it as he was coming in through corner number one. That was a contact with Ivan Fernandez. As they were working through as Richard Losper, as we're looking at a replay of it, you can just see they made a little bit of brief contact. He's finally getting his MX-5 in gear and away. So as we look back to the live pictures, that fight is still fairly good here. You got a couple of straggling Kias. Thomas Gerstenberg, is working his way around James Stevenson. But the MX-5s, I think they're going to stay close, at least until the Mustangs get there. And that's not probably, Randy, going to be for another 5 laps, maybe?
Probably not, because the Mustangs are only about 10 seconds per lap quicker than the Miatas, and the Kias are 10 seconds further ahead of the Mustangs. So it's going to be a little bit until those Mustangs get to the Miatas. Looking at things right now, Aeronam, who's currently your Mustang leader, is just, working himself essentially in the international horseshoe now, where your back markers in the Miatas are really just coming onto the back straightaway now. So it's a pretty big gap that they have to come up. It might even be longer than 5 laps. It could be better part of the first half hour of this race that we have to wait until those two classes really encounter each other for the first time.
And when they do, I think that one is going to be more tricky, because with the Kias, once you got to the straight, you could just punch it. I should not be talking with my hands on a broadcast.
Did you just punch your monitor?
Yeah, no, I punched the chair. The Kia can just hit the throttle and they can blow right on by on the backstretch. I mean, we saw the speed difference. The Mustangs, not so much. There's going to be a speed difference. I mean, obviously that Mustang, very powerful car, but it's just not going to be as much as that Kia. I mean, that Kia is probably tuned for bearing, 300 some odd horsepower, 360 horsepower, I think it is.
Something like that.
Yeah,
but the big difference maker, though, that we're going to see, Cam, is we're not going to see the Mustang make up all that ground on the braking zones throughout the infield, because you got to remember that Kia is both lighter and it has better brakes and it's on racing slicks. Like I said, this Mustang is big, it's heavy, and it's on dot tires, and because of that, if you're Aeronam, if you're Ben Callow, Dave Hoffman, Nathan Saxon, if you're someone who's trying to make up time through the traffic, you're going to have to do it the hard way, and if you get trapped behind a Miata, you're just going to have to sit there. You're not going to be able to put a big move on any of those Miatas to be able to get yourself, 1, by them, and 2, just because this car is so heavy, you need to ensure you get good exit speed for the straights here, and if you don't do that, you're just going to cost yourself more time than you would lose just waiting behind the Miata and using a little bit of the draft and powering on by.
Looking right now at Travis Davis, as he has got not one but two cars sponsored by Hugh Jass and his Extreme Team Mustang, as the Extreme Team Motorsports 99 Mustang pulling in through on the outside of one. He's going to have to let Jeff Tyler on by. Nate Franklin, though, he is looking in his number 44 to possibly get on by, possibly going into the International Horseshoe 1. And Alex Albert, also a proponent of the Hugh Jass racing team. And, of course, Randy Hugh is, Mr. Jass is just a very... what's the word I'm looking for? A very strong proponent of motorsports, and of course we enjoy seeing his team cars here at the Roar before the 24 here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. And the driver interviews are always an exceptional thing, as well as looking here at the Kias. And actually the Kias are enveloping the Mustangs before the Mustangs envelop the MX-5s, and here they go.
Yeah, so your leader is coming up on the Mustangs here shortly. Looks like Kyle Young's going to be the first of the victims here. And is there any other Mustang? Yeah, so this isn't even really a back marker, so to speak. It's just the tail end of the Mustang field. We haven't had any really big incidents yet, Cam. I think the biggest incident we've had on track was Richard Losper, because I want to jinx it. Listen, if you're going to try to bait me into saying something silly about Team Hugh Jass, I'm going to mention the fact that we haven't had a big incident yet, as Jake Blackhall is continuing to envelop the Mustangs as they go through NASCAR 1 and 2. Ringo Brights gets put down, and next is going to be Riley Bright and Jason Dunnington. They're going to be going to the bus stop here shortly. Will the Kias get there? I don't think not quite. The speed difference well, in terms of straight line speed isn't so much. It's actually Riley Blight. He's going to miss the bus stop here going through. He's going to catch himself a black flag, and that was actually very well held there by that driver.
Ringo Brietz, the number 32 car. That's why I said as the Ringo Brietz and Jordan Weeks had brief touch of contact, and Ringo went right into the tire barrier. As Randy, I have to say, I hope you are happy now, as that Ford did have to end up getting it pulled to the pits. He was entrapped into the tire barrier, so Ringo Brietz had to get his car towed out as we look back to live pictures. So, we've had one contact, and I have to say that's not the worst thing that could have happened.
Were you hoping there was to be contact?
No, you were the one that was hoping. You jinxed it.
Oh, I wasn't hoping. I'm a jinx artist. It's what I do. But Jake Blackhall continues to put down Mustangs. That's the number 22 on the outside. That's Dwayne Burns. I believe it's one of the. I think that's one of the cows. I know that there's a couple. Actually, no, it was in the Miatas that I believe it was Hayden Burns said that there were a couple cows in the Moo X5.
I have a point. Randy, I'm sorry, I have a point. Cy Andrew in the number 13 car, if we could get the camera on him, that is what you can see, an MX-5 that is now enswarmed in Mustangs. And if you squint your eyes really hard, you can see an entire pack of Kias coming. So this is going to be our first true three-class, multi-class part. And they might actually get lucky here, because this is going to be on the back stretch. But I was going to say, going through the International Horseshoe and MX-5 with Mustangs swarming around it, I can only imagine what Jake Blackhall would think to himself to try to get by.
Yeah, and if you're Sayandra, this is like the last thing you want to see, because he's essentially been dealing with the entirety of the Mustang field, and now you have cars coming up going 20 to 30 miles an hour quicker, and they're just going to slot themselves right through the middle. Simon Trendell's going to slip himself right on by, trying to follow in the wake of Michael Shellback as they go through the bus stop. The top three of your Kia field doing a very good job to all stay line astern. Jake Blackhall now is going to put down Dan I tried to say it, Cam, and I just failed. But that's actually, you talk about the paint schemes. Dan's paint in that Mustang is gorgeous. The lightning on the hood of it, that's very well done, as Kias continue to put him, go around the outside of him. I mean, he's interclass. I mean, those Kias are lightning quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, here I am. I was sitting thinking the Mustangs would be faster until Logan Clampett came in here beforehand in the pre-race and let us know the lap times. I was surprised. It's Dan Karakonstantis. That's the closest I could come to in the number 11
That's
Mustang.
Probably the quickest you could say it as well.
Yeah, probably. Well, I was saying it slowly so you Californian could understand. But right now you've got Michael Schellbach with the leader, Ben Callow, in the Mustangs on the outside. Actually, that's Aero Nom. Excuse me. How could I? How dare I? As Jake Blackhall, now your leader in the Kia, is now going to be lapping the leader in the Mustang. So Aero Nom, I have to say, Aero is a very fast Mustang driver. I know his name from that. As here comes Jake Blackhall on the inside. Simon Trendell, I have to say, that's got to be an impressive amount of patience he's had, because if he really wanted to push the subject, Randy, he could.
Simon is really the king of patience, and you know, I don't want to toot our own horn at Chimera, but one of the things we do very well, I feel, is patience. We're you know, and Simon's one of the better drivers at that. Simon knows how to get himself through a race. He knows how to not put himself in silly positions, and he knows how to avoid incidents. There's been a few very, very tight moments that not only Simon, I mean, all of the top three of your Kia field have been in some crazy close moments. So for Jake Blackhall, Michael Shellback, and Simon Trundle, all have done a great job to avoid those moments. As going into the bus stop now, they're going to get very, very close. Michael's going to just flip by a Miata.
Jordan Weeks, 52.
Oh,
they had a bonk. It was him and Sven Glatzel. They actually went on opposite sides of an MX-5. Richard Losspurs, he had to just rip onto that. As we're going to look at a replay, thank you, Hugo, as you could just see that number 21 car. They were coming in. They went on either side of an MX-5, and they had plenty of time to circle back into each other, and I think Sven was expecting Jordan to give the position, and I think Jordan was expecting that he had it. I think Sven went a little bit onto the grass, but you know what? They knocked each other, they conked a little bit. I think both cars are okay, surprisingly.
I think you're right, but we're having a challenge in our Kia lead again. Michael Shellback's on the outside of Jake Blackhall, and he's going to be on the inside going to the first international horseshoe, and that's very well done, just using the traffic to his advantage. That's going to move that number 8 Pure Racing Team Kia back up to the front. Jake Blackhall is going to actually get shuffled back due to some of the traffic with the Miatas around him, so he's going to fall back a little bit into the clutches, perhaps, of Simon Trundle, who continues to run in third as they go into the second horseshoe now, and Michael, a little bit of lockup on the right front, but overall he recovers nicely, and really the top four of your Kia is all very, very close. Juan Lopez, I mean, it was really just a separation by the top three for a while, but Juan has really closed the gap nicely.
He has Jordan Weeks, I just noticed, and Sven Glatzel are still fighting, and they are not happy with each other. They have touched each other no less than 3 times going through the international not the international horseshoe, but going through the infield section. So for Jordan Weeks and Sven Glatzel, I don't think they're happy with what happened that last lap. And now Sven, I obviously they could just be could be racing hard and they could be best friends. I don't know, but I was going to say these guys not too pleased with one another, and not that far up, of course, is that battle you were talking about with Juan Lopez and the rest of your leaders. But for right now, Sven Glatzel, he's looking to get a good run on the outside. Will Jordan drive him up to the wall? That is exactly what Jordan Weeks is going to do. He's going to drive him right to the Daytona barrier, on that safer barrier on the outside, of course, making a little room for Alex Crapser, excuse me. That's not going to be a good name to say in a hurry, but for Jordan Weeks and Sven Glatzel, these guys are going through, and there's actually Matt Pavelski with that expertly painted Broken Arrow car as they're looking to go into corner number 1. And Randy, watching this battle here between these two Kias, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't start using these MX-5s as picks. There's Craig Hunter on the inside.
Yeah, they're racing each other really, really hard for just being, I mean, you still have 2 hours of racing to go.
Do they have horns on those Kias? Oh, Craig
they might
Hunter.
need them.
Yeah, I was going to say they might need him there. As Matt Pavelski, he actually, I got to give him kind of the MVP out of that one. He could have made that very, very bad by trying to pass somebody somewhere that shouldn't have happened. Sven, that was exactly what he wanted to do as well. Randy, I have to say, I think people keep kind of trying to maybe make a little bit of a jest as they go past Logan Clampett and then go to James Stevenson. That, you know, perhaps this would be a little bit of a conk fest, that people would be bumping into each other. I have to say, I'm seeing very VLN-esque drivership, however you want to call it. Yes, we've had a couple of bumps. Yes, we have had a couple of bruises. But look at these Kias making their way through. Some of these Kias have had to go down to the apron.
Yeah, and sometimes if you're in the Kia, that's what you need to do. If you're in a battle, there's a certain extent where you can't necessarily be patient. Yes, you need to be. There's times where you as a driver needs to be patient as they drive through the field. But at the same point, if you want to maintain pace, maintain the gaps you have with drivers around you that are within the same class, sometimes you just have to go. And some of these Kia drivers have done just that as they work themselves now. Well, the Travis Schwesky, he's worked himself now through the bus stop. A couple Kias behind him coming as well. I mean, this has been some insane traffic that we've seen. I think a lot of these guys are praying for that first round of pit stops to happen, Cam, because once that happens, we're going to see a lot of these gaps start to spread out. Not necessarily within classes, but you're not going to see Michael, Simon, and Juan Lopez and the likes of Jake Blackhall as well all be so close. Speaking of, Jake has gotten shuffled back to fourth. Simon's gotten himself up into that second spot, and he's reeling in Michael Shellback. Actually, last time by, Michael was 4/10 quicker, but well done by Simon moving himself into that second spot. Not sure how Jake lost himself 2 positions, though.
Yeah, and, well, just as the car is moving through now, this is lap 14. Doesn't feel like it because so much has been happening as Adrian Bezia, that number 9 Kia, he goes on an off-road excursion on the exit of the International Horseshoe, recovers as he is following Blake Neck. As they're working through the infield. Jake Blackhall, as you said, not that far ahead. 2 teammates, Blake Neck and Jake Blackhall. Juani Lopez is now possibly looking to go on the outside of Simon Chandel in the Kias. I'm sure there's plenty of action going around and in other classes. Thank you, Elvin. Elvin saying that Jake had cut the chicane. He had a slowdown penalty, so that would explain that, Randy. And now it's just down to 3 as it's Michael Shellbach, Simon Chandel, and Juani Lopez. Massive lead for Michael Shellbach as perhaps Juani Lopez wants to start reeling in Simon Trendell as they look through the bus stop. No, actually, they're going to keep it nice and safe. And I think that's an important note, Randy. The front tires on these Kias, with it being a front-wheel drive car, with all that weight from that engine shifting from front tire to front tire, the amount of camber and caster even that these guys use in these Kia setups, those front tires are going to be done in quite a few laps time. They're going to need new rubber, and I have a feeling many drivers are going to be looking for that pit stop as Juani Lopez on the outside for Kia position number 2.
Yeah, Juan's going to try to get this job done quickly. He needs to get this done quickly because the problem here at Daytona, Cam, is that when you want to make up ground, and actually Simon's pretty much going to give that to him. That was well before Simon would have been on the brakes, and actually Juan goes very deep and almost catches the back of Michael Shellback. So Michael, I think, very conservative going to corner number 1 because that gap came down a heck of a lot more than I expected to. And again, going into corner number 3 and 4, Juan Lopez hard on the brakes, reeling in that leader. I was going to say that normally here at Daytona, you don't want to be over-aggressive with a driver that you're behind. Even if you're a couple tenths quicker, if they're the car up the road that you're trying to reel in, sometimes the worst thing you can do actually is fight with that driver, driver who's between you, who's right in front of you. You want to try to utilize that draft, and if anything, you want to try to push that driver until you get that arrow and get that slipstream of the driver out in front. That said, Juani Lopez just says, I'm just going to go around the outside and brake so late that I still almost make up the 7/10 of a second disadvantage I have over Michael in front.
Yeah, that was a good move on his part to go that deep. I don't really think Michael Shellbach was expecting it. I think he was starting to get a little comfortable with his gap. Perhaps maybe too comfortable. I doubt it. He probably just had a bad entry on that last lap. But for now, Juani Lopez, I mean, if you are Juani Lopez, I would say just go for it. Go for the lead. Because I have a feeling Michael Shellbach, the last couple of laps, he has not been faster than Juan Lopez. But Lopez, of course, has actually had the draft. We'll see. Juan will probably go for the lead this lap, so we'll at least keep with him right now. Don't forget, there are Mustangs and Optimas on the track. We certainly haven't forgotten, but this Kia lead battle is just too important to look because Simon Trendell is here. Will Simon Trendell push somebody as they are hugging that double-striped yellow line? I have a feeling if they had headlights, they would be blinking them, but they are not turned on, of course, because the sun is up, thankfully. No, they'll go 1, 2, 3, and now 4 as Jake Blackhall has closed in. So we'll leave those guys to their own devices, and we're going to start to look elsewhere as at the Mustangs. And actually, here's a good point as some of the Mustangs is going through the MX-5 field as Aaron Num and Ben Callow are going their way through the front MX-5 field. And Randy, that in its own is going to be an interesting part.
Yeah, that was your second place, Ben Callow, getting around your leader in your MX-5 field. And if you look behind Ben, you see a string of Miatas. That's Sonny Kenshin, Travis Schwinski, Gresham Wagner, Giuseppe Lancucci, Logan Clampett, and James Stevenson. Those are all the top 6 within your Miata field. So all those leaders there, it's an even bigger fight than what we're seeing right now in the Kias. And because these cars are so slow in a straight line, Cam, in the Kias, they spend about 40 or so seconds, probably closer to a full minute, out here on the oval. However, when your top speed is 130 miles an hour, you're on this 2.5-mile oval section of this racetrack for a lot larger percentage of your overall lap time. Because of that, you can see positions change once or twice before you even get to a braking zone, nonetheless within it.
And right now, looking at Nathan Saxon, the number 26 Ford Mustang, as he is now inundated with the MX-5s. He's got them on the left and on the right and in front as he's trying to work his way 3 wide inside the road course, but for a hair's breadth, as Dave Hoffman is trying to pursue, as Gresham Wagner and Travis Schwenke are looking to have a fight, as well as Giuseppe Anaki, as it very close to having a contact there as they work their way through. But for these Mustangs, like I said, they don't have that pop of the Kias that you need, that launch of acceleration. As just look at how wide they roll. The Mustangs roll through the corner. Whereas the Mustang, or as the MX-5s, they can really just gather the car up and very point and squirt that MX-5. And now looking at the next pack, it's going to be Alex Albert, the number 46, Jeff Tyler, and Travis Davis, the number 33 Mustangs. They're going to start to work their way through here. Wouldn't be surprised. This is going to be the big test here. We've got single Mustangs. You've got pairs of Mustangs. Now Randy is going to come the pack of Mustangs, about 6 in this one.
Yeah, I mean, because these cars are so much slower than the Miatas, there's going to be situations where these packs get overall just divided a little bit more easily. You know, you look through the entire field, and really the Miatas are still somewhat line astern, and the Kias are pretty well formed up. However, you look in the middle ground, and the Mustangs have really, for the most part, gotten themselves really spread out. Like you said, though, down in this mid-pack, Alex Albert, Jeff Tyler, Travis Davis, Nate Franklin, Attila Pop Jr., and even Dwayne Burns. That's 6 Mustangs all within a line right now. And as I say that, Travis Davis looking to the outside of Jeff Tyler as they go into the tri-oval for what is their 15th time going into corner number 1 on the braking zone. I think Travis ducked out of the draft a little too early, and he's probably just going to have to slip back in line. That said, very, very deep on the brakes he goes, and there's some Miatas in the way, so that might complicate things.
Well, it does. They managed to catch them at the literally worst point, the entrance to the road course. As here comes Alex Albert, Jeff Tyler, and Logan Clant. But there he's just holding onto that wheel on the inside in his MX-5, letting those Mustangs cruise on by. Oh, one of the Mustangs gets massively loose. Alex Albert, he managed to catch that. If that was you or I, car would have been looped around. As, driving onto the grass now is Travis Davis. Oh, boy. That was a little aggressive from Jeff Tyler, but you know what? I guess everything worked out in the end. I'm not quite sure how happy he's going to be with that, but these Mustangs seeming to be making their way through. But it's a bit, Randy, like watching a snowplow with a very straight... Oh, I can't make that reference. You're from California. It's very difficult to watch these Mustangs try to work their way through. It's not like the Kias. These things almost have to bowl their way through and kind of wait for the right moment, which is we're going to be happening right now.
Sometimes when you're in this Mustang, when it comes to putting down the Miatas, it's a bit like putting 4 pounds of potatoes into a 3-pound bag. You're just trying, especially when you get a big pack of cars like that, because you had, literally the lap before, what I just described happened. You had all 6 Mustangs pretty much line astern, and they've gotten themselves spread out a little bit. They're still relatively close as they're dealing with some traffic, but not all of them are going to get through this next batch of MX-5s, and because of that, they're going to get slowed down and checked up even more through the bus stop. And it's not that they lose time through the bus stop. In fact, the Miatas are probably quicker through the bus stop than the Mustangs actually are. But when the Mustangs want to be starting to get on the throttle, if you're too close to the back of one of those Miatas through the middle of the bus stop, you're going to have to wait that extra 1 to 2 seconds to make sure you don't cause an incident and drive into the back of one. And when that happens, you lose that top end speed on exit. And when that happens, your 6 car pack of Mustangs gets turned into a 3 car pack of Mustangs.
Yeah, but I have a feeling they're going to draft their way through as the number 22 car and the number 43 car working their way side by side. Dwayne Burns, Jason Dunnington working their way now into corner number 1, possibly following Nate Franklin. They are going to sort that out. Actually, Dwayne Burns, he's going to have an amazing roll through corner number 1 and into 2. He's going to go side by side in these Mustangs. These things, it's almost, you start clenching your knuckles. You start to turn a little white knuckle when you start doing these Mustangs because these cars are heavy. You have to plan accordingly for these cars. It's a bit like trying to drive like a Buick Century. I don't even know if the Buick made the Century. That could have been a Chevrolet or a Chrysler. I have no idea. But it's a bit like driving those old, Starship, battleship cargo container cars that we had in the 70s and 80s. But you know what? I will say that the power that comes out of these Mustangs, the torque, I guess I should say, out of that V8 is certainly impressive, and we see that on the backstretch compared to the MX-5s. obviously doesn't hold a candle to the properly created and tuned sports car that is the Kia, but I mean, these guys, this car, it is fun to drive, I guess we should say. For all of its interesting notes, Randy, it is a fun car to drive, and it does look like these drivers are having fun.
Mustang is the closest thing within iRacing that we have to an old-style Trans Am car, and a lot of people are going to question, they're going to think about that statement like, well, what do you mean? Trans Am cars, from the 60s and 70s, it's just a 40-year gap in terms of technology, but the fact of the matter is that Mustang isn't that technologically advanced when you get under the hood. It's got a live rear axle, it's got about 300 horsepower, you're talking, a relatively old-style clutch, you don't have a racing clutch really, H-pattern gearbox, and the pace isn't all that much different either. The Mustang is, of course, quicker, but if there's anyone within iRacing who says, you know what, Trans Am cars like the old Mustangs and Mercury Cougars and Camaros look like a lot of fun to drive, try the Mustang. It is the sort of racing that would probably turn your gears and you'd like a lot. Going into turn one right now, you have Jeff Tyler on the inside of Travis Davis. Travis trying to make the move happen on the outside. If he actually doesn't make it done here, Cam, he's going to lose this spot because Attila Pap Jr. put himself in a very nice position behind Jeff Tyler. But as I say that, he loses the gap to Jeff Tyler through the center of the corner. And contact! And they're going to go around. Is he actually going to avoid hitting the wall? I think he is. Travis Davis going to get away with that one, and he's just going to get sent around. However, the rear end of this Mustang, there are Kias coming through. The rear end of this Mustang is very difficult to hold on to, and it can be pretty sensitive to contact. I think Travis Davis got lucky, though. He's going to lose a few spots, but relatively speaking, really lucky considering what could have been.
Oh, that could have been very bad, especially if you stayed in one of these Kias. We didn't even see them coming. That's the worst part. Last lap, Randy, we were watching this battle. You didn't even see them in the background. And actually, I just noticed in our replay feed, in the feed that we are getting played back for us, that we were actually on board when that spin happened. So you were right there when that happened here on RaceSpotTV as we're looking at live pictures right now. Michael Schellbach, he's worked his way through the Mustangs, and you look at this giant pile of cars, Randy, and I have to say, somebody in chat has said it at best. This is very entertaining to watch, and of course, if you'd like to talk with us on the chat, we're there as well, but our eyes are really right now focused on this because these Kias and these Mustangs, very different cars, but they seem to be cooperating very, very well.
Well, you say that, but there's one going into the grass and there's a spin going into the bus stop. Who's that? There's a Mustang smoking. I think Mark Erga might be involved in that. And Dwayne Burns as well. So someone was just talking about Dwayne Burns in the chat. I'm not going to say it because I'll get protested, but Dwayne is currently on fire as they come exiting the bus stop. So Dwayne, definitely unfortunate for him, but that was a pretty big incident going into the bus stop.
Looking at the replay now, Jason Dunnington in the number 43 car. I think he was not expecting the Dwayne Burns car to go on the binders that early. I think what Dwayne was thinking was Sven Glatzel in the Kia is on the outside. He's going to let him go through and pursue. Jason Dunnington had nowhere to go, and they collided 2-3 times. They went through, and actually, surprisingly, nobody else was in that contact, even though there was the potential for 4, 5, 6 other cars that dodged them by feet. I still have to say, as Jason Dunnington's car is also on fire, we're looking at live pictures, as well as Dwayne Burns' car is indeed burning. They're coming to the pits right now, but Randy, that could have been so much worse. We're starting to get these things where even the worst thing that happens turns out to be decent.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to play itself out in such a way that one of two things is going to happen with the way a lot of this racing was going on, because people are being aggressive, they're making aggressive moves, they're being aggressive with the traffic. Eventually, you're going to get a bunch of little incidents, or you're going to get one big incident. What we've really gotten has been a bunch of little incidents, separate incidents. One car gets sent around here, 1 or 2 cars go into the wall here. So not a lot is really happening in terms of big contacts. People are being relatively clean. They're being aggressive, but they're being clean. And because of that, that's why we only see 3 and now I think 4 cars that are really ruled out of this race just based on damage.
Yeah, and I have to say this is absolutely impressive. Looking to the Kias, the number 37 car of Jake Blackhall, he has got Jordan Weeks. Jordan Weeks has worked his way up and through, and now he is to the rear of Jake Blackhall as they go past Nathan Saxon and Dave Hoffman and their Mustangs. And here they go side by side through the tri-oval. Nope, Jordan Weeks looking to go below the double line, and actually here we go. Pit stops happening just like that. We'll pull the timing screen up and let's see. Watch this this pit stop cycle here. Jordan Weeks as well as Blake Neck, Adrian Bezia. I think the Kias are the only ones that are coming in right now. Reese Gardner is in, Juan Lopez is in, Michael Shellbach, our leader, is in, and actually he just missed his pit stall. So cars are getting their work. Reese Gardner, he is going to get out ahead, he's going to get out ahead. He must have taken a very short amount of fuel through as Randy, pit stops fully underway here.
Yeah, pit stop cycling through. And actually, I think you're right, though. The very quick stop by Reese Gardner, probably running a different strategy. It's important to remember, Cam, that these cars, what happened?
I think that he had an incident. He was in his pit stop was a minute and 45 seconds, and I think he came in the lap prior. So yeah, he wasn't getting
possibly
out ahead. He was.
Although something notable, Kim, of all the Kias that have come down pit road, there are 3 exceptions to that rule. Simon Trindle, Jake Blackhall, and Sven Glatzel. He's actually 3 seconds off your leaders of that pair. They all stayed out, and that is going to be significant, Cam, because normally in most of the cars, like the GT3 cars, the Ford GT2, the DP, the HPD, they fill gas relatively quickly, and that 1 gallon is about a second. However, this Kia's pit stops are much, much slower, and that 1 extra lap, I'm not sure what the exact figure is in terms of fuel, but that 1 extra lap can be significant in the pit stop. I would not be surprised if we see Simon and Trindle and Jake Blackhall. So long as they don't mess up their pit entry and getting into their pit box in any way, they will likely come out in front of the rest of the field.
Yeah, since Simon Trindle coming in, looks like he has a much better entry, actually. Managed to get some separation between him and Jake Blackhall as they are pulling their cars through right now. Simon Trindle, he's on the limiter right now. And
for reference, Shellback is just now leaving his box.
Yeah, well,
so that's how long you're in the pit lane for.
Yeah, that's what I was about to get to. If you're looking at pit stop times, a NASCAR pit crew can take maybe 11, maybe 12 seconds, maybe high 12s to get 4 tires and an entire tank of racing fuel in that stock car. You look at Formula One, it could possibly be maybe a 2.5 second stop, and that would probably be a slow one in today's world. You look towards sports cars, it's probably about 45 seconds, maybe 50 seconds, maybe a minute if you're doing a driver change. For the Kias, well, it's about a minute 46. And the reason why is because these guys, what they're doing, of course, these are fully prepared racing cars, but they're actually just using tanks of fuel to get it, and they have the actual nuts, more like a stock car, not a single hub that you would normally see. Well, and so
it's also important to remember that Kia, that's a Pirelli World Challenge spec GTS car, and the Pirelli World Challenge, they're the 1 hour sprints. If you're in the pits in a Pirelli World Challenge,
you got a problem.
Things are just not going well.
So if you could just picture that there's a dude with an extraordinarily large jug just dumping fuel into that thing, he's probably going to have to dump maybe 3 or 4 jugs into that Kia. That is why the pit stop takes so long, whereas other cars will have a faster pit stop. But just looking at it, though, obviously the Mustangs are not going to be able to make up any other time or anything like that. They're going to be very, very separated just because of the lap times. But for Simon Trindle, just chilling there. And you know what? It's not actually a bad thing because it kind of calms the nerves a little bit, Randy. It kind of solidifies everything when you start playing back as Jake Blackhall is rolling away. Jake Blackhall is rolling away well ahead of Simon Trindle. And actually, Jake Blackhall, where is he going to come out? He looks like he might come out just behind Matt Pavelski. Matt Pavelski, who has yet to pit. And is he going to be ahead of Juan Lopez? Yes, he is. Just looking at it, everybody now has pitted. And the battle right now, for everybody that is pitted, it looks like it is Brandon Hawken, who, did he only take fuel? I think he only took fuel.
It must have been a super short stop. I wouldn't be surprised if we see if Reese Gardner, or is he coming out of the pit stops now?
looking
might
at my
be pretty
timing
far up the field
screen
as well.
as it stands, Matt Pavelski, it's Brandon Hawken, Matt Pavelski, then Jake Blackhall, then Wani Lopez. So it's just looking like right now that perhaps extraordinarily short fuel cycles. Matt Pavelski, his pit stop, as I see smoke coming from the entrance into one, as we'll see what's going on over there. But it is Attila Papp Jr. in his Mustang. But these pit stops wildly varying in times. Your front fast guys in the minute 30s, maybe minute 40s. But a couple of guys taking very
Hawkins
short
in the pits
stops
now, so
he's in the pit twice. I think something might have happened.
yeah, he probably had an early incident in the opening laps. Likely came down pit road actually, and may even have been a slight mental mistake. Maybe had that quali setup loaded, and because that had to come down just after a few laps, because this doesn't make any sense that he'd be able to go that much longer than anyone. So, but I mean, look where Michael Shellback has come out of this. That little mistake, and he's lost, I think, 5 positions. And not to mention, not only the mistake he had on pit road, Cam, but the fact that he came down earlier than the likes of Blackhall and Trundle. I think those two are pretty much your leaders out of this point, with the exception of Wani Lopez.
Yeah, and then you've got Matt Pavelski up ahead with that expertly crafted. You know what? I think, Randy, I think I figured it out. What they did was that they took the money that you would put on the paint scheme and they put that in additional fuel jugs, so they had a faster pit stop. And that is why Matt Pavelski is ahead of Jake Blackhall right now. But I will say, this is nothing on this is nothing on Matt Pavelski, but his fastest lap in the race is a 150.6. Actually, he's had a fastest lap than Jake Blackhall. Okay, well, that takes my point. I was going to say, because it looked to me, Randy, like Jake Blackhall and Wani Lopez were catching right on in as they now are in MX-5 traffic.
Well, they're there. They're definitely there. They're going to have that draft to work with. They're not very far off the back of Matt Pavelski, and right now this entire field is very, very close, which is definitely great to see. Simon Trundle came out a little deeper in the pack than I thought he would. He's only just out in front of Michael Shellback, and he's got the likes of Jordan Weeks, Mark Aga, Blake Neck, and Wani Lopez. Blake Neck is actually really the last one that's in line. I'm actually really curious about what we're going to see from these different drivers of the course of this race, Cam, because I think some of these guys, like Blake Neck and Mark Igia, I think they're a little bit further up the field than they were before pit stops happened, and for that reason, I think they likely took a slightly shorter stop in the first stint, especially looking at the lap times. Looks like Simon's really starting to put those people down and behind him quite quickly, and Michael Shellback, of course, following through. I'm just going to be curious to see how this pans out over the course of the race, because Simon, I think, I don't understand why Simon would be so much further behind Jake Blackhall, considering that Simon was first in the pits compared to Jake, and they hit their box at basically the same time, but Jake is about 7 or 8 seconds up the road. That tells me that Simon and, maybe even the likes of Michael as well, likely had longer stops.
Yeah, the stop times were for Jake Blackhall, a 1:39 for a 1 minute 60 seconds. There's an MX-5 on the inside wall. That is the car of Craig Hunter, and he's waiting and waiting. Yes, get out of there, get out of there. Nope, don't pull forward. Hold the brake, Craig. There you go. All right, let those cars through. Okay, now go. No, punch it. No, okay, all right, there's still more cars coming through. The long wait, I have to say, in all the spots that get stuck, it's probably the worst one.
Oh, that's a bad one, yeah.
Let's see here, coming down the road. Go, Craig, go, come on. Okay, all right, he's got it on the other side. That's a good thing. He'll get that car sorted out in a way. I think we're starting to see a lot of cars doing solo spins in a corner number 1, Randy, and that is a very easy thing to do with a worn-in race car here at Daytona.
Especially in the likes of the Miata, because in the Miata, what you're really doing is you don't necessarily drift the Miata. However, the Miata is a car that you have to drive right on the limit of adhesion. Because of that, you are sort of slipping and sliding that rear end around a lot, and those rear tires do take a bit of a beating. You don't really necessarily get the power on oversteer. You don't really roast the rear tires from getting on the gas like you do in some other cars, like you would perhaps in the Mustang, because, it doesn't really have that much power, but you can really take a beating on those rear tires. Matt Pavelski, though, holding on to that nice lead. I'm actually curious, how long was Matt's pit stop compared to everyone else's? Is the car rolling
shorter?
That's going to cycle through then. Matt, he's going to lead for now, maybe get himself out in front of some of this craziness. That might pan out for him, but he's going to have that long pit stop at the end.
I think they have a plan because the YouTube chat I have to say, you guys, this is
That's
actually
Christopher
a very
Demary.
great
He doesn't plan
That
much
is
of
a
anything.
great crowd, I have to say. It has been very entertaining to watch you guys in the chat. But apparently the plan is going according to plan. But he had a 1 minute 26, whereas Jake Blackhall, who had a very fast pit stop, had a 1 minute 39, and Juani Lopez, who had what we would consider a standard Kia pit stop, was a 1 minute 45. So you kind of look at the span of pit times, and people are trying all sorts of things. And he's actually staying right on the back of Juani Lopez. Maybe he's going to try to save fuel. That would be an interesting tactic to watch. And let's try to you know what? We're almost 50 minutes into this thing, Randy. And before we start getting into the pit stops for the Mustangs, well, why don't we just go through the top fives here and try to reassociate ourselves where we actually are in this thing, because there's been so much going on. And you kind of start losing the bigger picture. So, here we are at 40, we'll just call it 50 minutes in. Jake Blackhall right now has resumed the lead here in the Kia division. Of course, that's our top class here, fastest lap times. Jake Blackhall followed by Juan E. Lopez, then Matt Pavelski with his interesting strategy and even more interesting paint scheme. And then, of course, you've got Jordan Weeks and Simon Trendell 3 or 4 seconds back. Michael Schellbach, one of the fastest drivers of the day, he's about 5 seconds back. Looking to the Mustangs, is it anybody else? It's Aero Nam, and if I'm saying that incorrectly, somebody please correct me, as Aero Nam has actually murdered a couple of cones in the International Horseshoe number 2. Is he wearing a pink visor? Yes, he is. As Aero confidently driving his Mustang around this track. But you know what? For as strong as that Mustang is, Ben Callow has been there every single lap, every single corner in the second position for this race. Nathan Saxon, Dave Hoffman, and Dan... Oh, goodness. You see, I start laughing because you messed it up. You messed it up, so now I'm messing it up. It is Dan Karakonstantis.
You got Saline on the front of the hood. We'll call him Dan Saline the rest of the race.
No, we can do it right. It's the right thing to do. It's Dan Karakonstantis, and then Jeff Jacobs, Alex Albert, Jeff Tyler are your front 10, I think. And then you go down to your MX-5, Sonny Canchin, Travis Schwenke, Giuseppe, and I'm presuming that's an I, not an L, not a lowercase L, that's an uppercase I. Iannuti, Logan Clampett in the 4th position in MX-5s, James Stevenson, and then Gresham Wagner actually has just passed James Stevenson. Stevenson, who was the one who had left the pit lane and actually joined before the MX-5s got to corner number 1. And then Ivan Fernandez and Zach Novak. Now these MX-5s, Randy, I think they really do only have to pit once for this event. They've got about I think an hour and 25, if I want to say.
It's going to be tight because you use a lot of gas here at Daytona. You're on the gas for so long. It could be there might be a splash and dash, but I mean, it is for those who are unaware. The Miata has an 11.9 gallon tank, and when I was doing testing for the 24 hours of the Nürburgring, because I was bored of running one of the GT3 cars at the time, I got told in the F4 black box that I could do 12 laps. So that car sips fuel like it's nobody's business. It's going to be really tight on whether or not you can do this in one stop. I think in order to do it, you're going to have to save some gas, but question is going to be how much.
Now, and we will find out. I would say, with the draft too, that's a part of it as well. But yeah, you know what? They might have to come in for a splash at the end of it. Also in the chat, hello, Mr. Hugh, as Hugh Jass has now graced us with his appearance in the YouTube chat, as well as the Mad Cow Racing team. I have to say, we're getting all of the good team managers on the chat as well. I have to say, if the 24 hours of Daytona is going to be like this, it is going to be a great one. Right now you've got Juan E. Lopez. He has taken the lead. Actually, he has lost the lead, so he crossed the start-finish line ahead of Jake Blackhall, but I have a feeling that, Randy, it's one of those things where they go side by side. He gets the ticker, but really it's Jake Blackhall in the lead as they're going to start encountering some more MX-5 and Mazda traffic, or Mustang traffic.
Yeah, so, I mean, Jake Blackhall does currently lead right now. Second is Juan Lopez, and third is Matt Pavelski. So Matt's doing a good job on that light tank of gas to keep himself out front, but he's going to have to do something, Jake, because Cam, I just called you Jake. I'm used to commentating with Jake in the Raven Graphics Contender Series, and we're talking about him, so I'm just going to blame Jake here because it's what I do. But, I mean, we talked about the field a little bit, Cam, but, I mean, let's really, up and down the field, you're talking about some big names that had a lot of success in 2016. You have in your Kia field, Jake Blackhall, who's one of the best drivers in endurance racing in Australia. Matt Pavelski won the iRacing Indy 500. Simon Trundle had a podium in the Le Mans 24. You drop down to the Mustangs, and it's actually a little bit sparse, so I'm just going to buzz over them. Then you get down to the Miatas. You got Logan Clampett. That's, a peak antifreeze series driver. Craig Hunter, one of the cows. Richard Losper, one of the GSRC guys. There's a lot of talent and a lot of success from 2016 in this opening World Tour event for the 2017 season. The fact that we get so much attention from a race like this, which is normally somewhat sparsely populated, tells me that we're going to have a good year, and certainly a good 24 hours of Daytona next weekend.
Yeah, and we are looking right now at the Kias. I don't think we've gone that far, to be completely honest. It's the 20, the 9, and the 21. As that is going through with some the Mustang traffic. One of those cars will start with an M, as Kurt Crum has gone to the inside in his number 20 Kia. He's getting on the throttle. Adrian Bezia, as well as Sven Glatzel. Glatzel had that contact before, and he has seemed to have cycled back just a little bit, and then, of course, the pit stop as well. A little bit of front-end damage sporting on that Kia of Sven Glatzel, that number 21. They're clearing that Mustang traffic, and I have to say, Randy, I really hope that this is not the cleanest race that we have this weekend, because this has been a very clean race, and if we could have races, perhaps the Gathering of Tweakers Endurance Series and the Neo Endurance Series, which are coming Saturday and Sunday, if they can be this clean, they're going to be great races, and I can't say I'm supposed to be surprised, because I'm not, because everybody here knows what they're doing, but there's no series in the official iRacing series that these cars would come anywhere close to each other, and yet here they're not really thrown together. This does work very well, and everybody's working great together.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a fantastic event, and like you said, the next 8 to 9 days are really going to be really busy for iRacing endurance racing in general. You have this kickoff on Friday night, and and for us on RaceSpot, GSRC is going to be in the game too, because you have GES and Neo, which of course are us, but going into next weekend you have the Daytona 24, which I believe is getting split again between us and GSRC, and GSRC also provides coverage for the top split of the Blancpain qualifiers, and the last round of the Blancpain qualifiers actually happens at the Nürburgring during the 24 hours of Daytona. So while we're going to be, I think, doing the bulk of the coverage for that Daytona 24, you have GSRC who's going to be trying to split attention between two different events.
And V8's online, of course. Can't forget our neighbors on the literally other side of the world, as they will be as well. Logan Clampett, though, his rear view is controlled right now by Giuseppe Iannucci. He is going to the inside, as you can just see, that's the draft right there. Because look at this. They're going through Daytona 2 right now. By the time they get to the bus stop, Logan Clampett will have had the time. Oh, he's bump drafting. Logan, this isn't the peak antifreeze series. You don't have to do that here, as he throws Giuseppe Iannucci into the bus stop here, going right on through, as you can actually just see the power that they go right on through, and then you have enough time and enough speed to make an attack once again. So these MX-5s, they're a little split up now, and I have a feeling that's because of the traffic and the nature of that traffic, but it has been so far a good race in the MX-5s. And as you said, overall, I mean, we've only really had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars that have officially retired.
Yeah, it's been a very clean race overall, but right now, actually, the lead in your MX-5 field is heating up rather nice. Travis Schwenke and Sonny Kanchan, I think they'd swap positions 4 times over that last lap, and Sonny Kanchan second across the stripe. He's now leads as they go through the little S's near the pit road exit into the International Horseshoe, and once they get back onto that oval, I think Travis is definitely going to get back out in front of Sonny at least once. Question is, will Sonny be able to get back around? So right now, every battle for the lead is very, very interesting. You have, like I just said, in your Miatas, Travis and Sonny within drafting distance. Go up to the middle class. You have Aeronam and Ben Callow. They're within drafting distance, and then you have 3 or 4. You have all your top 5 in the Kias, all back line astern, since your pit stops have happened, and they're still dealing with some traffic. Actually, I take that back. I think there's 6 of them here.
6, yes. as you just saw them going
Counting
2 by
is hard.
2 into corner number 1. They're going to come to Dan Karakonstantis as they're working through on the actually Dan is okay, that's a little too far, Dan, but okay, we'll take it. Actually, did one car go around? Was that Matt Pavelski? I think it was. Something going on. Yeah, he has, and just going through.
Yeah, well done by them, and that is definitely a smart move there by Dan. You have, because that's a situation where if you're relatively on your own, when you see the top 6 all wanting to come through at the same time, you know that not a single one of them is going to play nice with you. Just need to get out of the way and just let them get on with their jobs, and you just hope that you don't lose a position in the process. And with the way Dan is right now, kind of out there on his own little island, making a move like that, very, very wise decision.
Alrighty, and so we're just about to close in on an hour of racing here at the Roar before the 24 here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in just a few moments' time. Stay with us.
So obviously, you guys have come from the virtual world to reality. What do you think about a sim racer coming in the real world? What were your expectations coming in?
Coming from iRacing, a computer program basically down here to a real world scenario where you got all these guys with all these years and years and years and years of experience that are also using iRacing as a tool to come out and run against those guys and beat them and finish ahead of them and show them, there's a thing or two you might be missing is fantastic. I mean, that's a skill that I know I don't have, and I can appreciate it because I'm terrible at iRacing.
Glenn was able to come into the team. We did a lot of preseason testing, actually a full season's worth of testing before we even started the season. And he came in, there was a lot of sectors that he was the fastest guy out of our team. And Sparky and I are looking at data, trying to catch up to him through some turns. And of course, some places Sparky will be the fastest or I'll be the fastest, and Glenn is able to learn from, what we're doing and vice versa. So it was excellent to see his pace right off of the bat, and speed was never a worry. It's about qualifying well. Qualifying is very difficult, and pretty important in this series. And so is, being able to make effective passes without contact. It's very difficult to pass in these cars, so, it's not easy being here.
I think the level of ultra competitiveness in here, where when normally when you make a pass, you're making a pass with 2 cars involved. But if we're making a pass in this series, you have to remember there's 5 cars waiting behind you. If you mess up that pass, they're going by you.
Yeah, it's like sharks.
Yeah, you're surrounded by sharks. But no, it's been I've been very surprised and very pleased with it. And obviously, I have the 2 champions I'm sitting between. John actually statistically is the most successful MX-5 Cup driver in the world. He owns every record that you would want. None of the bad records.
Maybe some of them. I don't know.
Maybe some of those. And Sparky's one of the quickest guys in the paddock, and obviously the champion now. So. I couldn't have picked a better team to be with 6 Sideways. I'm looking at what everybody in the paddock calls gold. I mean, they will pay to look at John and Sparky's data, and I get full access to it, and I get to see where I'm doing well and see where I can improve. And I've been really pleased with my progress.
1 hour is gone and away here at the Roar before the 24 here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive here at Daytona International Speedway. We've had a bit of a, well, there's no other way to really describe it. We've had a relatively large event or incident, and ultimately what's ended up happening is a lot of the cars seem to have to pull out, go to the pits or reconnect and get their situations sorted. Some kind of a load or something like that's happened. I have to say, I haven't really seen that happen before. This isn't us trying to cover anything. I can honestly say normally it either the whole thing goes or the whole thing's fine. So we're going to try to pick up the pieces here. So we're going to take a look at the standings here and see what's left in standing. Jake Blackhall, he had no issues through that turbulence. Jordan Weeks, Simon Trendell as well. So you still have your front three running cars. You have a total of 8 Kias that are now still on the lead lap. Everyone else getting back out on track right now. So a little bit of a hiccup there, some turbulence, whatever you want to call it. We can't say. But Randy, sometimes, when everything seems to be going perfectly according to plan, some things you just can't control.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate for all involved. And, what I really mean all involved, I mean the racers, I mean the viewers. However, this was looking like a fantastic race, and unfortunately one little technical hiccup, and luckily it's still looking very exciting. It only looks like it's about half the field, and if you look at our Kias, we still have 3 cars within half a second. That's Jake Blackhall, Simon Trendell, and Jordan Weeks, and really of those, the only major, I think, contender for the win in that Kia class we saw drop is actually probably Michael Shellback, because really, Matt Pavelski wasn't going to win this race. His first pit stop was simply too short, and he's going to have a super long pit stop at the end while everyone else's would be shorter. So we have 3 of the major contenders still in the Kia class, and if you look down at your MX-5, well, that's still somewhat close as well. Sonny Kanchin and, actually, Sonny's out to a pretty good lead, but Giuseppe Lancucci as well as Logan Clampett, that's the fight for second and third. That's very tight as well.
Yeah, and as I said, the cars that are rolling back on track, they're going to get up to speed and back and underway. A couple of cars that were involved in that: Matt Pavelski, Wani Lopez, Michael Shellbach also caught up in that. And it is too bad to see. We were having an absolutely a barnstormer of an event. We still are. It's just unfortunate because we took that lead pack of 6 Kias. We've really, we've really just sort of lost that. So, unfortunately, some drivers have been straight up lost, as some are going to be very slow to getting back onto the track. Matt Pavelski's still in the pits, waiting his steed, waiting for him. The MX-5s, we still have. We still have a good run for the MX-5s. Let's actually look at Sonny Kanchin and Giuseppe Iannucci. Iannucci right now, if you look behind him, he's got Mustangs. Jeff Jacobs, Travis Davis, and Alex Albert. These are 3 guys that are actually still right here in the fight as they are working their way
going down
past.
to the apron behind, and that's actually going to be interesting because who's that on the apron? That's Thomas Gerstenberg. He currently runs. Well, the thing is that you're not allowed to go down to that apron at any point. You can be on the apron on the back straights, and you can be on the apron through the tri-oval. However, being on the apron on the high big sections of the racetrack is actually against the sporting code and is protestable. So that's both is hopefully Thomas watches this at some point and hears that and is well aware, and is at the same point anyone planning to do the 24-hour race next weekend have to know that apron on the bankings of the oval is completely off limits 100%.
And it is, and that actually has been talked about in the past and brought up over the weeks. So I have to say it was very, very gutsy. But you know what? At the same point, he was going around lap traffic. That'd be very gray rules, even if we had live officiating. But here on the official series, what we would be able to do is have post-race reviews, of course, of that. But I will say, just for right now, it was probably the smartest move to make, rather than trying to make a 4-lane highway 4 cars wide. But overall, a couple of cars just coming in for their pit stops. Some of the Mustangs are starting to come into the pits. And I have to start wondering, when is the Mustang pit stops? I have to say, and this
Soon.
isn't... Yeah, well, that's where I was kind of lead to. I have to say, in the years that we've done this, I haven't really covered the Mustang. as we're looking at a Mustang battle right now between the Jeff Jacobs, say that twice as fast, and Alex Albert. So both names that roll right off the tongue there are fighting for position. They're fighting for, I believe that is 17th on overall track. It should be about 3rd in the Mustangs, and Alex Albert, he's looking to possibly get through on the outside, but I haven't had the chance to cover these beautiful little Mustangs, and as such, I don't know when their fuel cycle is. Some are coming in now, and as you said, Randy, it should be soon, but like 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps?
It's going to be hard to really say. Right now we're a minute and about 10 minutes into racing, so I mean those cars do have a relatively large tank of gas. That's actually something to keep in mind, Cam, because like I said, they are the FR500S quite literally is a Mustang GT with a roll bar, a rear wing, and some aftermarket suspension, and arguably a fire extinguisher. I mean, look at the dash; it still has the standard dash pretty much across the front of the car. Has a couple stickers on it, but really it is just a relatively bare bones Mustang, and for that reason, what you get with a street car is a pretty large fuel capacity, and you get some decent. Who's in the pits?
Jeff Jacobs.
Ah,
hey, here we go. Perfectly timed, Randy.
Davis.
Perfectly timed. So, yep, you can keep going.
But yeah, so I mean, you get the fuel economy from a street tuned car as well, which definitely does help. As your top 3, Blackhall's, Trundle, and Weeks, put down another lap to Miata. That's actually going to be Ivan Fernandez, and they're going to go squabbling all for the draft as they go through the tri-oval here for the 37th time. And as they go into corner number 1, there's actually going to be another Miata up on coming off the high banks. Who is that? That is James Stevenson.
Yeah, and so Dave Hoffman, he's getting his work on. Jeff Jacobs, Travis Davis, Jeff Tyler, and Kyle Young also getting their work. MX-5s, I would expect them in the next 10 to 15 minutes, as of course. We'll see when they start rolling in here.
And actually, that's big, Cam, because if they can hit an hour and a half, that means they can go to the end. Actually, they need to hit what? An hour and 12, because a 2 hour and 24 minute event. So divide that by 2, you have to be able to go an hour and 12 minutes.
So they will one stop.
Well, we're an hour and 11. Yeah, it's. I think you're right.
Okay, so the MX-5s are looking at a one stop, which isn't surprising, Randy. We should know this because the VLN series, it's what, a 4-hour race, and they only pit like twice. So, all right. Well, we'll take that for the MX-5s and for our Mustangs. I'm not sure if they're getting tires. Here comes Ben Callow. Ben Callow comes in from the lead. Nathan Saxton, will he also come in? But your Mustangs are starting to come into proper now, dropping down to 55 miles an hour.
Nathan drops off and down below the yellow line, and here he comes.
Okay, here he comes. So here comes that Ben Callow car, a little easy on the brakes, so he had to kind of release the brakes and let it roll on forward. That Ford Racing Mustang getting its service. He's getting tires. Now that is, it is a very classic pit stop, very stock car-like. Yeah, NASCAR style. He throws it up on the jack. That's actually a very quick pit stop. They're rolling through that. They've got the tires swapped over on the lefts there.
Don't be fooled. The gas takes longer than that.
I'm sure it does, but just by how much longer. The tire guys, props to those guys for getting that sorted out, and also props to the painter for that one. Unlike that Broken Arrow car, that is literally the definition of an art car.
And unlike the Broken Arrow car, it's still driving.
There it goes. Well, easy now.
Throwing shade at my ex-teammate.
Nothing to do with Matt Pavelski, to be completely honest. Net number 24 car out and away. That was a very quick pit stop. So these Mustangs are going to be having quick pit stops as Nathan Saxton, yes, he did come in. Now Relly Blythe, I think, is going to be the one that takes the lead. Let me see where we can find as far as action on the track. We have, I think, our first Kia going a lap down on the actual racing track, and that's going to be Jake Blackhall passing Kurt Crum. They're in the International Horseshoe number 2.
Yeah, Kurt, I think, was one of the drivers affected with the DC there just several minutes ago, and I think he managed to get in just in time to not go a lap down, but going a lap down pretty much here, and Jake can see him basically. And actually, the likes of Simon and Jordan have fallen off the back of Jake Blackhall a little bit of traffic, I think, last time around as they were coming back up onto the banking, and because of that, it's now a 1-second advantage that 37 machine, the Evolution Racing Australia Kia driven by Jake Blackhall, now enjoys. And What's nice for him is that normally as the leader, one of the big risks you have here at Daytona, one of the things you hate about leading at Daytona, Cam, is that you don't get a draft. However, because he has Kurt Crum in front of him, he now has a car that really, if Kurt isn't really all that slow through the infield, Jake could just sit behind him for quite a long time and both save fuel and, essentially enjoy the draft and hopefully be able to maintain this gap to Simon and Jordan behind.
In Kurt Crum, he had his pit stop. He just took, he had a pit stop, and he is actually, he's still technically on the wall. Geez, they just split a pair of MX-5s, and that was some good aiming right there from Kurt Crum leading that group of Kias through there. But let's see, his first flying lap was a 151.92. Or 0.98, excuse me. Jake Blackhall a 151.92, and that was with draft, whereas Kurt Crum didn't have any, so he does seem to have the
Simon
lap
did a
speeds.
51.1.
Okay, for me it's listed as a 0.92, and
No,
Crum
Simon
went
Trendell did a 51.1. Blackhall did a 9.2, and Crum did a 9.8. So Trendell was on it that last time around.
He's got a car right in front of him, so I wasn't really counting him. I was going between Blackhall and Crum, but yes. Because, I think the thing at this point is I realize that Simon isn't just going to throw it up into the corners unless he has a really good opportunity, kicking up a little bit of tire smoke there, because I think he's saving fuel, and that's honestly probably the smartest thing to do out of all three of these guys right now.
And that's something Simon is very, very good at, because I moved over to Chimera from Phoenix about towards the end of last year, around September, and one thing I noticed that I think Chimera does a lot better is that they get very, very fine-tuned with their fuel numbers. The likes of both them, Jamie Wilson's also a huge one. Both Simon and Jamie, they understand to the leader how much fuel they're going to need for this entire event. I guarantee you Simon knows exactly how much fuel he's going to have to take in his final stop. He knows how much he's saving, and the thing is that that's also nice about Simon is that Simon's a computer programmer. He's actually coded a couple nice tools for us over there at Chimera in before people called griphacks.exe, but
they
Simon
only distribute those in Finland.
Yes, Simon does Simon races extraordinarily smart, and he knows all the ins and outs to get himself to the front of the field beyond just speed. He's looking on the outside now.
No.
I think he's actually quicker than Jake right now. And right now, I think he's in the phase of the run, knowing the way that Simon likes cars to drive. Simon likes to be quick through the middle of the run to the end of the field run. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a bit of an advantage over Jake right here, right now, especially because Jake's kind of used to the opposite of this car. You look at the Kia and the V8 Supercar, and they look somewhat similar, kind of similar rear wing, but they're so much different. You're talking, a 500 horsepower difference, front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. I think the likes of this is likely going to favor Simon over Jake, and I think we're seeing it in the pace right now.
Yeah, and you got to remember they're going past lap traffic right now, MX-5 after MX-5, and they are wheeling and dealing their way through it, very comfortable through the road course, as looks like Logan Clampman and Giuseppe Iannucci are pitting, and this is the MX-5 pit stop. I believe they're going to be getting tires. I'm sure I probably have missed their pit stop for the tires yet. But that Giuseppe Iannucci car, does that say Team Potato on the side, that number 3 car? Yes, it does. That is the Team Potato car, right ahead of Logan Clampman, with, of course, sponsored by JDR Graphics, as Logan Clampett is way ahead of Giuseppe. That is actually fairly interesting. Oh, Giuseppe's getting tires. I almost wonder if Logan didn't.
I'd say that's a brave call by Logan Clamp to go for a 2.5-hour race without rubber, and by the looks of it, I think you're right. I think he skipped the tires here, and he's going to save himself probably about 25 or so seconds in the pit lane. I'm not actually sure how the pit stop sequence works here, and actually are our leaders in the pits in the Kias? That they are.
Yes, they are. Jake Blackhall is in, and alongside him is Simon Trendell and Randy.
And Jordan goes around again.
Yes, he does, and I think this is the second time this is happening now. But Randy, are we being, are we not remembering whether the VLN Series MX-5s took tires? Because I almost want to say that they only took tires once during the entire 4-hour race.
Well, the reason they would do that, though, is that their second stint would be shorter, because you got to remember, those were, 4-hour races, so you'd pit, you'd go 1 hour and 20 minutes on your first tank of fuel, so that leaves you 2 hours and, 40 minutes left in the race. Then when you come in again, your second, essentially you'd have a shorter final run to the end. Here it's not quite like that. You're essentially splitting the race in half, and you have to really make the tires stretch. It's going to be really hard, I think, for Logan.
It's like I'm not trying. Alvin, perhaps Alvin can help us. Alvin Yves, of course, helping us out in the back, as well as Hugo Louis. As there's been a car contact with a Kia number 38 and 47. That is going to be well down the order as the 38 car of Jeff Tyler, perhaps, at the bus stop. Oh, okay. He had an incident involving Kia. Perhaps it was Carlos Villegas, maybe. But either way, the car seems to be continuing. As I almost want to say, Alvin, perhaps you have a better memory than the either of us. The MX-5's not taking tires, would you consider that to be a normal thing? Okay.
Dynamite drop in, Alvin.
No, there he is. He's got it. Yeah, his mic.
Yeah, well, usually the main problem that the Kias have is that you got the front tires, and like Randy just mentioned, you got the front tires doing the driving, doing the braking, doing the steering, so you're having the front tires doing all the work. So, but you also include a track like Daytona, for example, that is not really that intensive on tire work, so perhaps there is the possibility that you may have some drivers gambling on perhaps not taking tires at all, given the nature of how Daytona is. So it will be really interesting seeing how drivers like Logan Clampett, for example, by not taking tires, seeing if they can make it throughout this race, perhaps through at least one of the stints having no tires, because one thing that the Kias have in here is the variation in pit times is so big that sometimes not taking tires, even with that, you may save almost like 40, maybe even 1 minute. And on a race like this, where it's all close with the slipstream and everything, that could really make a difference between winning and losing.
Alvin Yves, thank you very much.
Also, Jordan has gone around another lap, so that's two
laps on top. Okay.
And actually, if you look just behind Jordan, those two Kias behind, that's Jake Blackhall and Simon Trundle. And actually, this is going to be interesting for Jordan because, well, they are 1, 2, and 3, but Jordan's actually a lap ahead because he hasn't pit. Exactly a lap ahead because he hasn't pit yet. And what's going to be interesting is that because Jake and Simon are relatively close to each other, if they're smart, they'll try to form up and work the draft a little bit. And even with Jordan going the extra distance, if they were able to draft enough, which I think now that Jordan's coming in the pit stop now, they probably didn't get enough of the advantage to really make a difference. But they could have actually kind of hurt Jordan there in the long run. It's kind of a situation of, if you imagine even a NASCAR super speedway race here at Daytona, if you pit early, you get yourself out of maybe a bad situation. But if you have no one to draft with, your laps are just going to be slower.
MX-5's car number 1, Sonny Cancian. He has come into the pits. He is leading the pits.
Stop. Did he skip
tires?
Let
me see. Yep, he skipped tires too. So, okay, perhaps the strategy is
that's
to
definitely
skip
indicative.
tires. That's
Sonny,
what I'm trying to... He knows. And that's
Sonny's
what I'm trying to remember.
one of the people who would get the strategy 100% correct.
All right, so he comes out. Actually, in probably the worst possible spot. He has got Ringo Britz, Benjamin Gregory, and Kyle Young, 2 Mustangs and a Kia that he's got to work around. Plus, he's got to try to get around the lap. MX-5 traffic of Zach Novak. Will the Kia be polite? Yes, he will. Benjamin Gregory. He tries to angle his way. He backed out. Very smart. Very, very smart. This is good, safe driving. Multi-class drivers. I am pointing at the screen. Take note. This is how you do it. As Zach Novak, he is leaning his car to the outside. Zach's even doing the right thing because he's staying in it. He's staying in the throttle, taking the turn like he normally is supposed to, and then he's allowing the Mustangs to go on the outside. The cars roll over onto the outside. Ringo Britz has a bit of a bad exit, but he's a couple of laps down. Kyle Young going to the inside. Randy, I'm so amazed at how all of these cars are interacting so very well. I'm so bummed about this turbulence that we've had, but you know what? We're still getting good action.
Yeah, I mean, it has been an absolutely exciting race all the way through. Like you said, that little technical issue, that hiccup, it definitely hurts, but we're still seeing some awesome action. Right now, your Kia leader leaving his box right now. Jake Blackhall and Simon Trundle are coming across the start-finish line, and Jordan Weeks is actually clear of them both, so maybe a slightly short pit stop there from Jordan to help him. He may have taken the short stop a little bit now, going those extra couple laps and maintaining this lead, but your top three as they come through, Brandon Hawken and Kurt Crum, they're going to have to pit soon. Remember that the way it cycled through, that they're both out of sequence, so they're currently in second and third, but it's not going to be for long. But it's essentially going to equal out to Jordan Weeks, to Jake Blackhall, to Simon Trundle, as we coming up with essentially one stop left here in about 35-40 minutes time. I think it's really any of these three games. I think you might give a slight advantage to Simon Trundle because I don't think Simon has had the shortest pit stop of any of them yet, Cam. Maybe you can, I think you have Joel real timing up that we can reference, but thinking back to the first round of pit stops we had, Simon came in latest of anyone, and I think he lost positions where everyone else picked up. That tells me that he's likely filled to the brim every single time, and he's setting up for a super short, or the shortest possible final stop, where the rest of these guys, if they're short filling even a little bit, they're going to be in the lane for longer.
Yeah, so that was Simon Trundle, a 140, as we're looking at Nate Franklin in the number 44 Mustang, leading a trio of Mustangs as the Kia of Kurt Crum goes right on by. Kurt Crum currently, I believe, might actually be your leader with 58 minutes to go. His pit stop was a 1 minute 5, whereas Brandon Hawken, who is currently listed in second, was a 1 minute 47. Jordan Weeks, a 1 minute 32. And then you've got Jake Blackhall, a 140. Simon Trundle, also a 140. So looking through the Mustangs, we can never have cars that both start with the same letter ever again, not allowing it. As Jordan Weeks, he's got his way through. Nate Franklin, possibly a touch from Alex Albert. No, they stay in it. Travis Davis looking onward as they have got Kias, Randy, to get on through these Kias. It is Simon Trundle, Jake Blackhall.
Yeah, fighting hard as they go into the International Horseshoe here. Two Mustangs on the outside, two of the huge ass cars, and who's that third one, that green and black one? Travis Davis as well, and actually two of those spots are for line, and two of those three cars in line, are actually for position. Nate Franklin, as I'm looking through, I don't believe, he's laps down, but what's interesting here, Cam, is that you have the two huge ass cars, and even though Nate Franklin isn't in it for position, if he has a bit of pace, he's going to want to just sit in front of this pack as long as he can, giving Alex Albert, his teammate, draft as much as he possibly can.
Yeah, and that would be a fairly good thing to do, as Nate Franklin just looking here. Will he let Albert through, or perhaps he might actually save Alex Albert some fuel over the course of the run, allowing him to take a shorter pit stop in the future. But of course, whatever Albert is gaining, Davis is also gaining as they go around Alex Krapser on the outside, and that is it for them to go to the bus stop. Looking ahead of where we're at, as we do only have 1 hour remaining. I already said 58 minutes, but just hitting that landmark 1 hour, we've had a total of 45 laps ran. Right now, your current leader is Kurt Crum, and maybe Kurt Crum has the strategy down. I think he knows he's going to have to come in for one more pit stop. It's going to be about a minute and 40, maybe, to fill it to the finish and get some tires. And perhaps Kurt Crum has done some sort of a masterstroke and recovered.
I don't know about that, because Kurt's one of the ones who I think got booted when the Mass DC happened, and
no, because he wouldn't be leading the race.
No offense to Kurt, but even if he has the strategy moves of all strategy moves, everyone has to pit at least one more time. So even if Kurt somehow managed to get a shorter final run in, he's 3 seconds slower per lap than the rest of your Kia field. So, and 3 seconds per lap is a lot at Daytona. I mean, that's
he was running 151s. The last he had a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 151s in the lows, and then he had that 152.4 and a 153.1. So for Kurt Crum, he was not one of the ones that were involved because he's on the lead lap. So that he wouldn't be able to have rejoined in that time and stayed on the lead lap. So for Kurt Crum, I mean, it seems to be coming together in that respect, but I have a feeling perhaps the pits aren't going to work right, and he might have to come in twice for a splash at the end of the race, one for a full and one for a splash. But
he needs another 13
behind,
minutes,
though.
I think, to make it to the end.
Yeah,
Ish.
and not that far behind, though, is Jordan Weeks, only 1.6 seconds. And for Jordan Weeks, if he gets up with Kurt Crum, he's going to have a draft partner, and if Kurt Crum doesn't have the fuel or doesn't have the strategy planned out, that could be very divisive against Jake Blackhall and Simon Trendell, and those two cars would have to start working together as they're going on the high side of the banking here at Daytona to go around those couple of MX-5 cars. Just to kind of reiterate, hello everybody, it's RaceSpotTV, it's iRacingLive. It is the first 2017 World Tour event, the Roar before the 24, here on RaceSpot and iRacingLive. As I just said, hello everybody, I'm Cam Walsh, that's Randy Chenoweth. We've been bringing you the coverage for the last hour and 30 minutes, and we're going to bring you, of course, the next hour of motor racing here from Daytona. It has been a bit of a barnstormer with one massive hiccup, as overall your leader is Kurt Crum, but there are probably 4 or 5 names you could throw at a hat, and that is how that hat would probably be more accurate than anybody else trying to pick out. In the Mustangs, it is also a very good race right now. Currently, Ben Callow is leading that. Aeronam is in the pits as it stands. He's got a little bit of front-end damage there. He was your fastest runner, but he has slid down the list. And then you've got your MX-5s, Ivan Fernandez, Sonny Canchin, and Logan Clampett, as well as Giuseppe Iannucci. Randy, just looking at the picture overall, the last hour and 30 minutes has been very, very good racing. And you know what? On the back of Kurt Crum is Jordan Weeks.
Yeah, so I mean, Jordan Weeks has quickly reeled in Kurt Crum, and Jordan's going to be in a weird situation of, does he let Kurt
Crum
by,
might let him go.
Yeah, Kurt, I think, will probably let him go. That'll definitely be
Get
smart,
fuel.
and indeed he does. So Jordan just lets him go, and the thing that's going to be troublesome now for Jordan Weeks is that he didn't get much in terms of a draft advantage, and I think I take that back. I think Blackhall and Simon are likely going to catch Kurt Crum on the infield.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to depend really where they catch him. If they catch him on the infield, they're not going to get any of the advantage from the draft at all, and if anything, Jordan Weeks is definitely going to hugely benefit from that. But if Kurt Crum can maintain enough pace that those two can't get to him in time, and if they catch him, like let's say they're coming out of the back straight or going into the bus stop or even coming out of the bus stop, they're going to have the draft all the way down the straightaway, which Jordan Weeks didn't have. And that's going to, the draft here at Daytona, even just on one of these stretches, having your car in front of you is worth about a second on the lap chart.
Oh, easily. Plus, it probably saves you just as much time in the pits as far as the actual fuel can, dumping fuel into that tank. So for Kurt Crum, I almost think perhaps, I think he intentionally let him go to get a draft partner, but Jordan Weeks had such a great exit off the bus stop, and now Kurt Crum has blown the second international horseshoe by just a little bit. I don't think he can really keep up with Jordan Weeks right now. Jordan Weeks is literally playing serpentine with MX-5s. He's gone left, right, left. You could literally make a video out of it. Actually, he just got a bit of a bump from Sonny Canchin. Sonny Canchin probably just laid on his horn. It's an MX-5. I'm sure it has a horn. And he's not happy with it. He's like, hey, you keep on trucking there, buddy, as he is now side by side with, is that Logan Clampett for the lead?
That's first position. No, that's second. Actually, no, I take that back. That is for the lead. Wait,
Yes,
no, it's
it
not.
is.
Ivan Fernandez is in the lead.
Oh, yeah, Ivan Fernandez. Yes, that is correct. Sorry, it has just been Sonny Canchin for so long, but Logan Clampett looking to challenge for the lead as they come right on through to the other side, according to the doors. And the car you see behind them, Zach Novak, that is a lap down car, the all green car. I believe that is that is exactly what that is, lime green. As he's snuck up on behind Logan Clampett, but that actually, Sonny Canchin, I think, is just very good through that bus stop, better than most, and he seems to have a great exit every single time. And for Ivan Fernandez, he's in the pits right now, so that means that your leader is going to be Sonny Canchin at the start-finish line.
Actually, no, because
Maybe.
Ivan Fernandez is already out of the pits.
Yeah, he's already out of the pits. Okay. Let me go get my the timing up. I'm sorry. Let me get the timing up here. He has got 6 seconds.
We got a pass for second in the Kias as well. Second and third. Simon Trendell's involved with this. Kurt Crum was on the left-hand side of the racetrack. I have to say that's a little bit naughty there by Kurt Crum because he ran a super wide exit and he just tried to work the undercut. And the problem is that you can't, that's sort of a bad situation. I think all parts involved. Jake Blackhall, I think that was a bit of an over-aggressive move going into the International Horseshoe. And then I think even on the part of Kurt Crum, I think that was over-aggressive trying to work the cutback there when you have a car for position behind you who's always going to go for that open door. You can't open the door like that, the International Horseshoe, because the moment you do, the car behind is going to go through it. When that happens, you cannot just say, well, I was trying to work the undercut. If you leave that door open, someone's going to go into it. You can't just shut it like that. Simon Trendell, well done to at least maintain, and looks like he doesn't have too much damage, but still for Kurt Crum, a little over the top, I think, in terms of trying to defend, and I think a little over the top by Jake by trying to attack.
Even if, no matter if you had the most pain, if Jake Blackhall has just picked up a speeding penalty going through the exit of the bus stop, so that is going to allow Kurt Crum and Simon Trendell to catch right back up. But even the most patient racing car driver will go to the inside of the International Horseshoe 100% of the time. So yeah, that was a move that was going to happen, and here comes Jake Blackhall. He's giving that time back. Of course, the digitized marshals needing that time to come back here. So very agonizing to slow that car down. Also, Randy, just as a riposte, Ivan Fernandez did not stop in any pit stall during his pit service, which means it was not pit service at all.
Oh.
So get wrecked yourself there, my compatriot.
It's what I do best. Actually, what I do best is my inability to find reverse.
I almost wonder if
he had to miss the pit.
Yeah, he missed his pit stall. There he comes in now.
But anyways, so essentially for the lead, Sonny Canchin and Logan Clampett right now side by side over the start-finish line into one. Logan Clampett does have the inside, and that's where he needs to be. But Logan a little, I think, maybe too patient on the brakes. But no, the shorter way around is going to give that number 2 machine of Logan Clampett the benefit. And here comes here comes that yellow Kia, and that is a scary place to go 3 wide, which is why you saw Logan Clampett hit the eject button right there.
And it worked. Benjamin Gregory, that was, I kind of get to tip my hat a little bit, and then he's got to go on the inside of Ben Callow. I have to say, this has probably been one of the cleanest multi-class races I have ever seen. And that, I don't want to say it surprises me, because I know everyone here is very good. But when you get different speed cars, and it's typically tin top GT cars, it has a habit of not ending well. This is ending very well, not only for us here in the booth, Randy, but for everybody watching at home, because this is good stuff right here.
Well, it may not end well, because right now you have a situation where Jake Blackhall, Simon Trendell, and Kurt Crum are now all back on top of each other, and I'm actually curious, because all those cars had damage. What are the top speed difference like for these cars? So Jordan Weeks, I'm gonna watch what he does before he goes breaking into turn 1. 168, 169 is actually those three, and starting to get very exciting. Jake goes to the outside. Ooh. Simon's gonna play the patient role, and actually breaking into turn 1. Jordan was doing 171 miles an hour. The likes of Kurt Crum, not a lot of draft. 172. Simon was the slowest of the bunch. He was doing 170, but I think he lifted out of it at some point. So not really a lot of damage on those 3 cars. Well, there is damage, but doesn't seem to be affecting the top end. But right now, I think if you're Simon Trendell, you have to get around that yellow Kia quickly. Kurt Crum simply doesn't have the pace, I think, of the drivers around him. He's certainly not slow, but I think the likes of Blackhall, Trendell, and Weeks are all quicker.
And every single lap, Jordan Weeks pulls a little further ahead. As Jordan Weeks, you have to remember, is your leader, and he has got about probably a 2-3 second gap between him and the car of Jake Blackhall, who's on the inside of another yellow car. That's Alex Crapser. Oh, goodness. As Kurt Crum there, I think Simon Trendell, it's the 3rd time I do it. I feel bad. But Kurt Crum, though, speaking of yellow cars, that is, I have a feeling Simon Trendell is going to pull to the outside unless he's doing this fuel-saving thing or maybe had a bad exit because of that MX-5. I have to say, well, and here comes Kurt Crum. You're talking about the top speeds. I have to say, I was looking in the pre-race when cars were pristine and perfect. They were running those exact same mile an hour, so these cars have been taking a beat.
Yeah, and Jake Blackhall is, I think, doing a great job. I mean, last time by, we saw him get that black flag, going to do the bus stop. He got cycled back to 4th. and within a lap, he gets himself back up into that second spot. Right now, oh, Kurt Crum dropping down onto the apron. That's very, very tight. That's going to cost him some speed, and Simon Trindle is actually going to get into the back of him.
And there goes Kurt Crum into the retaining wall. I think what Kurt had planned to do is go down under the apron to go around that MX-5, and he had clipped it and had lost, he had scrubbed so much speed. Kurt was going 140, 147, Simon Trindle 161. Simon, really not much else he could do. Kurt Crum, I think he recovered from dipping.
Especially because Kurt turned to the left.
Yeah, he dipped. Well, he dipped into the apron, and I think he realized his error, and so he tried to, first he kept it out of the safety barrier, and then he tried to maybe just duck to the inside to allow Simon to go. And the closing speed at 20 mile an hour, I mean, there's only so much a driver can do, and so for that bump, I don't think Simon could have really done anything, and that put Kurt Crum in the wall, and that put Kurt Crum into the safety barrier on the inside. Here at Daytona International Speedway, that car is in the pits. I think his day is going to be done, and that's an unfortunate end to that. I have to say, I don't like to say racing incident, but with something like that, just bad planning.
Yeah, that's not racing incident in any way, because, I mean, it is not hard to keep your car on the banking at Daytona, and Kurt Crum, flat out, he just tried to be over-aggressive, dropped down under the banking to try to get around that slower car. He realized that, oh yeah, the Kia doesn't have infinite downforce. I can't keep it down here at speed. He came back up on the racetrack. He went across in front of Simon Trindle, and then when Simon went to go to the left to go around him based on where he was, he then turned in front of Simon. That's 100% the fault of Kurt Crum. There's a big adage in racing is that if you're off speed, either because you have damage or if you're in a different class, you have to hold your line. Kurt Crum didn't do that, and because of that, he ended up in the wall.
I almost think that he needed to pull that car into the pits that lap or he was going to run out of fuel. Not quite sure. We're going to look to the number 47 and 38. This is down in your Mustangs. Of course, you always want a good fight. Just tune into the Mustangs. Riley Blythe and Jeff Tyler running their way through the International Horseshoe number 1. And
they're not two huge-ass cars, by the way. They're actually different teams.
They're completely
same colors,
different.
Though.
No, it's a darker
Should be
blue.
some copyright infringement somewhere.
No, as that is not quite sure which cars those are. I think that
one
of them is a huge ass car actually.
Red Bull. So I don't think it's really.
Yeah, I don't think it's a. Yeah,
probably not associated with any particular team. Right? Just
a paint scheme.
Yes,
a paint scheme, as Giuseppe Iannucci is going to be falling victim to them pretty fairly soon. In his number 3, as he is trying to chase on down James Stevenson. That's for 3rd in your MX-5s. That's Kia of Jordan Weeks zipping right on by on the outside. This is actually a good showcase of the speed because you can see the Kia zipping right on by doing the little serpentine thing. Riley Blythe going to the inside around that Team Potato MX-5, and then Jeff Tyler going down through the gears as they go through the bus stop. Giuseppe, he's not a happy camper right now. He actually had to hold up through the bus stop because that Mustang was just so much roll on the suspension, Randy. But it's a good showcase of the speed here at Daytona. I have to say, hats off. This is a good car combination.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, these three combos have played relatively nice. We've not seen any big major hiccups. We had a couple tight moments at the beginning of the race, but it's been relatively calm. Apparently, Juan Lopez, we're saying, is in the pit road. That's currently your 8th place runner in your Kias. He's a bit out of sequence, and actually, he's going to be pretty tight making it to the end. It's going to be 40 minutes to go from here, so he's going to have to fill that tank up. And I also am having another kind of thinking point here for Simon Trindle, Cam, and that's... I monitored his speed, and his speed was fine going down into turn 1 and into the bus stop. However, if there is enough aero drag on that car, that will affect his fuel economy, and we've been saying the whole race that the one thing that Simon might have up his sleeve based on the way he's been racing and the longer pit stops and essentially going longer than anyone with the exception of the last time where Jordan Weeks went, I think, 2 laps longer than anyone else. If he has some extra drag, he's not really going to be able to do a short stop. He'll have to do a full one like everyone else.
Yeah, and so that'll be exciting to find out. The number 46 Mustang, Alex Albert, will catch back up with this Mustang group here. It's a group of 3 cars. as that Mustang is rip-roaring through 138, 139, 140, 142 before he hits. He actually lets off a little bit to let a little bit of space for Nate Franklin, so they go down through the gears. 6-speed manual transmission, heel and toe going through.
They only use 5, though.
They only use, okay, fine. I mean, maybe they want to use the 6th gear. Maybe they
there is a
Thunder.
there is a 6th gear, but the 6th gear is so tall you don't actually.
You never actually use it. Maybe if they just, they probably need Tom Cruise, and then they can hit that 6th gear, the 7th gear, 8th gear, 9th gear, probably 10th gear also. But either way, Nate Franklin moving through that pack of MX-5s. So packs of cars fighting packs of cars, passing packs of cars, and then Jordan Weeks,
With
our
the leader
overall
coming
leader,
through.
coming through. So this is, of course, something that we would expect here at the Roar Before the 24. An amazing amount of class of cars, but obviously we had probably about 12 retirements overall from that server hiccup, and also from the incidents accumulating over the course of the last hour and 44 minutes. We haven't gone on board with anybody, have we? Maybe, you know what? Why don't we try to see if do you think we can trust going on board with one of those Mustangs? Perhaps Jeff Jacobs in that number 40.
Jeff Jacobs will be a solid choice.
Yeah, okay, all right. Let's see if we can survive a lap at Daytona. We're already almost halfway through, so we should be okay. So Jeff Jacobs on board. And Randy, just take me through trying to drive this Mustang around Daytona, at least for the rest of the lap.
So you bring out this big FR500S to Daytona, and you basically say, I got power, the straights are going to be fun, and then these tight corners with your dot tires say, no, they're not going to be. Especially this corner right here, getting back up onto the oval, dot tires, the rear end doesn't want to play nice for you, especially when you have the Kia Simon Trundle on the outside. And from here, you're cycling up the gears, 4th gear and up into 5th gear, because I believe that's that final hairpin. That might just be 3rd gear. I don't think it's 2nd. 2nd's actually rather short in this Mustang, and you'd be surprised how little shifting you do with the way the gear ratios are set. But you're hitting 5th gear because, like I said before, this is a street car, and 6th gear really is the fuel economy gear. That's what you're going to put on the highway, but really too tall for any sort of racing for the most part. You come through the bus stop, that's 3rd gear 100%. Now you cycle up into 4th, and then somewhere around midway through the banking, you're going to cycle up into 5th. And you're going to be checking your mirrors. You're going to see you have Jason Dunnington behind you, so you're not going to have too much traffic behind. And all the while, you're watching Travis Davis out in front of you, working the draft as best you can, watching him work with Alex Albert, who's still working with Nate Franklin. And that makes things very, very sketchy. But being the last car in line means you get the strongest draft of anyone. So you can either sit back, save a bit of gas, or you might be able to mount some sort of an attack. But for now, you're just going to hold station and remain in the back end of your little pack.
And look at the gap that he had caught up here, as we'll just stay through the little bit of the International Horseshoe here. The brake lights all going on in these Mustangs, as he just gets so close under braking. And it's fairly easy to do when you start seeing that accordion effect. You can really plan your braking perfectly every single time, so you do really go faster. They go through the kink here. Will he hold it flat? Yes, he will. And then he comes into International Horseshoe 2. And I have to say, as far as a GT car, this has been an exciting thing. The evolution of this car will be the Ford GT4, the Mustang GT4 car. I can't wait to see that thing live and in person as they exit the international. They're all the International Horseshoe, I guess. The infield section. Go back on track. We'll start rotating our camera around the track now, as we're going to be pretty satisfied with that lap from Jeff Jacobs. I have to say it was a 2:04, his last run there. And, well, we have to say a little bit of a correction. One of those Mustangs that we were talking about is most certainly a paint with all the sponsorships. That is the car of Riley Blight, the 47. That is the Maverick Welding Mustang for the Evolution Racing Australia.
Ah, interesting.
Yes. So there we go. So that wasn't just a paint, that was his paint. So perfectly fine. As working right on through. As Alvin, no, that is wrong. He just said that, for those unfamiliar with the GT4 category, it's...
He is correct.
He's not. He's saying that McLaren is wasting their money by investing in a GT4.
Oh,
program.
no. It's not that McLaren's wasting their money, but I'm pretty sure that McLaren is going to be the most expensive option to go GT4 racing next season. So
everyone knows that it's probably going to be a Chevy.
A Chevy?
Either way, you know what? Why don't we just look at the Sunny Canyon?
You're commentating and you're implying that a Chevrolet is going to be more expensive than McLaren?
Yep. Yeah, because McLaren's going to have a great run at it. Logan Clampett is going to pull ahead of Sunny Canyon, by the way. But I'm really hoping that Mustang does really well in GT4. So I'm hoping.
Based on the pace we've seen, though, from Formula 1, that McLaren could probably just use the F1 engine and still be in spec for GT4.
I mean, you know what? I think
that
might need some BOP to slow everyone else down to that level.
Yeah, I think you're right,
Randy. But Mustang's coming through for Logan Clampett and Sunny Canyon. Logan Clampett and Sunny Canyon, they've actually all race long have been together, even through the massive server turbulence, as the Riley Blythe ERA car and the Jeff Tyler Hugh Jass car are going to start working their way through here. You'll see Sunny Canyon very intelligently leaves the outside open. He knows that Mustang is going to roll wide, and the MX-5, Randy, is actually better on corner exit, I think.
Actually, you're 100% right about that, Cam, because both of those cars are essentially, they're essentially spec cars that are running DOT-style tires. I don't think the Global MX-5s actually run slicks, but because that Miata is so much smaller and so much tighter, especially in a corner like a hairpin, it simply put just gets around the hairpin quicker than the Mustang does. Granted, shortly after corner exit, that Mustang's going to be quicker, but there is actually going to be a slight phase through the exit of the corner, where if you're a Mustang driver, that MX-5 in front of you is actually going to be stretching that gap just a little bit because they have less power to deal with, and the weight transfer isn't quite as severe, and because of that, they actually accelerate just a little bit better for a few moments. But after about a second to 2 seconds of corner exit, you essentially get to the point where you have the likes of Sam Hazem just rolling around the outside. And actually, Sonny's going to look to the outside of Logan Clampett into one.
I'm not actually sure. They might be on slicks. I was looking at the car as it was stopped at the pit stop, and it looked like a slick as pulling alongside Carlos Villegas is in his Kia has pulled alongside, doing the very polite thing and letting them fight. He knows that this is an important battle in the MX-5. This is the fight for the lead in MX-5, so Carlos is going to be very polite about it. He's going to slowly work his way through here. He goes to the inside of Logan Clampett. Will Logan close the door? Yes, he will. He's going to try to capitalize on this one, Randy. I can't say I blame him. And then on corner exit, that Kia just says goodbye as off and away he goes. But just looking through all this, and actually you have a battle with Aero Nom and Attila Papp Jr. Okay, they are slicks. Alvin, thank you very much. BF Goodwrench G4 slicks are on that MX-5. So, yeah, that's. I think the old MX-5 did have treaded tires. I think that's what we were thinking of. But this battle between the 4 and the 18, very good at all. Actually,
we got a
there's car on
spinner.
the wall. That's Riley Blythe, the number 47.
That is that Evolution Racing Australia Mustang we just talked about. See, if they wouldn't have talked to us, this is all their fault, Alvin. The manager said, oh, yeah, you need to mention that's our team car. And then we mentioned them, and the commentators cursed. I don't think a manager's curse has ever happened, but it has now.
Actually, this is kind of a bit of a terrible incident. The Riley Blythe lost the rear coming off the exit. You know what? That's fairly standard. Car rolls around a bunch. It's a big hootenanny. And unfortunately, as it was pulling through, Jeff Tyler was hoping he would be clean, and he wasn't, and he got collected. Nothing Jeff to do, nothing Riley could do, and that is truly an incident there. You could say, well, he could have controlled the spin better on the Mustang, but there's nothing you can do once you're a passenger. And recovery for Jeff Tyler was okay. Recovery for Riley, that front end is just, that thing's whacked.
Yeah, it is definitely worse for wear at this point, but someone else who's somewhat in a situation of being worse for wear is still Simon Trundle, because the lap times has essentially just fallen out of that number 7 machine. Cam, you look at Simon Trundle, he's consistently doing 52s to 53s, whereas the likes of Blackhall and Weeks are doing 51s to 52s. So Simon is essentially going to have to somehow make up, I think, 20 seconds on pit road in his final stop, and I don't think Simon's got even that much in the tank.
I think that that damage that he sustained with Kurt Crum is taking its toll. The damage is all situated in the front nose, and it's exposing those wheels. And aerodynamically speaking, wheels are the worst thing in the world to try to have an aerodynamic effect with. But as Simon, he does, man. I mean, he's going 5 mile an hour. He's hitting 166. 167, yeah, he's going about 3-4 mile an hour slower, and over the course of a lap, especially here at Daytona, that's not going to end well. So I think that car is going as fast as it can. It's only good for a 153, so unless he does something crazy, I don't know. As Jake Blackhall, speaking of crazy, goes on the inside of a pair of Mustangs, managed to clear it in the International Horseshoe 1.
Yeah, that was a good move by Jake to get those guys put down relatively quickly and still managing to go through. Him and Jordan have been trading lap times back and forth, but Jordan has still been consistently the quickest. What happened?
Giuseppe Iannuzzi and James Stevenson, they actually just went 3 wide between International Horseshoe 2 and the exit to the infield. Jordan Weeks, our overall race leader, took them 3 wide. James Stevenson was able to capitalize on it. And Syandra, who is watching, is simply watching. He's lapped down. But sorry, Randy, continue.
I forgot my point. Yours sounded much more important.
Well, it fairly was. Our race leader almost decided to go 3 wide in the infield. You don't normally do that. That was pretty close. But I don't even remember what your point. Maybe Alvin remembers what your point is, but I
usually don't
really
have
don't.
a point, to be honest.
You're just talking. Thanks. Anyways, let's look at our MX-5 leaders then. Sonny Canchin, the number 1 car, and Logan Clampett, the number 2 car, which is pretty darn convenient for us in the commentary booth, as here comes Logan on the outside. 5 gears they're going to cycle through here. They're going to probably drop it down to, what would you say, 3rd gear for corner number 1?
3rd. That Miata, actually, that MX-5, you'd be surprised.
3-4 is what you use.
Yeah, 3-4-5 is really what you use. You would use something like 2nd, at like the hairpin at Long Beach.
Yeah, the hairpin or something, yeah.
Not even just a hairpin, but like the old, like this is 3rd gear 100%.
Good overcut from Sonny
done by
Canchin.
Sonny.
He had to actually back well out of that. Logan, I think, parked his car. Oh, these guys are well and true on the racing, as Logan Clampett's on the radio, so I don't know if he's trying to chide him into attacking or what, but there he goes, Sonny possibly to the inside. That is exactly what's going to happen, but Logan Clampett is going to have an excellent opportunity. They make a bump. Okay, these settle down now, guys. You still have a
little bit of peak antifreeze series experience coming through there.
Just a tiny smidge. As Thomas Gerstenberg, who we've seen managed to go into the grass, passing people on the grass, passing people on the apron, I think, is an evasive maneuver. He makes his way around. Well, much cleaner this time, that JCL car making his way through. But, oh crap, I was making a point too, and I forgot it as well. It's starting to get late in the race, isn't it?
30 minutes left.
Yeah, only 30 minutes left here in this race. Actually, it's about 25 minutes left. According to my timing, it's 26 minutes and 45 seconds. For these 2 front guys... Oh, that was the point I was going to make. Our gears. We were talking about the gears. Actually, very door-to-door contact between Logan Clampett and Sonny Canchin.
That'll be a black flag for Logan, I think.
Yeah, he probably cut the course. That's not going to end well, but they did damage to both of each other. I don't know why they're racing this hard. Perhaps they're not too happy with one another and they're starting to take it out on each other. I'm not sure. But just to wrap my point up before these guys managed to flip themselves over, when we were racing an Acura Integra in the Chump Car World Series, which is a series that I used to race, well, I didn't race, I was a crew chief on, our Acura, we would use pretty much 3rd and 4th gear exclusively to get around Watkins Glen, and that was it. Literally the entirety of Watkins Glen, those 2 gears. That was it. So that's why the MX-5, obviously a direct competitor to that Acura Integra, would only be using those few gears. Now the Mustang might be a little differently, but for these MX-5s, you're really just focused on getting good shifts, not necessarily many shifts.
Yeah, I mean, it is just... you'd be surprised. You'd see, oh, it's a 5-speed. I'm going to be shifting a lot. And you'd be surprised how little you actually do. It's just like the Pontiac Solstice we have in the service. It's famous for having, I think it's a 6-speed, but you really only use 2 of the gears at any given time because a couple of them are simply too short and a couple of them are simply way too tall. And you know, it is just sort of the way it goes. And actually, the Mercedes-AMG GT3, to a certain extent, is the same way. Within the service, we have the short gear that we can run, so we can hit all 6 gears no problem. But I was watching some onboards from the real life 2016 total 24 hours of Spa, and the onboard I watched, that Mercedes was using only first through fifth the entire lap at Spa, which really confused me because I've never seen a car only use 5 gears at Spa. And if they do, it's second through sixth.
Yeah, well, if they had that 6th gear, they probably had it tuned in for perhaps a Monza or a Le Mans. But of course, they don't race at Le Mans, so that would, so it must be perhaps something like Dubai or of course Daytona. Of course, a car like that could very easily race at Daytona. So I think they have to have their gearings set and squared away beforehand. I think they would much rather have a higher ceiling than perhaps go through, as we've just had a big incident on the track somewhere with Logan Clampett, and I'm presuming that would probably be with Sonny. And
no, they're still cycling through. Sonny's
I see what's
gotten out in
happened.
front.
The bus stop. No, they went through the bus stop. The exact same thing happened. This time it was Sonny on the outside and Logan on the inside. They were Logan's wheel just about hit the driver door. Logan Clampett, a massive save he had to do, and then he had to give a little bit of time back for the marshals. But for Logan Clampett, I think these guys are they might not have a car. Who's in third? Because that person better get ready. This is starting to get
Cam,
pretty
actually,
dramatic.
we have drama already happening as it is. Jordan Weeks, who was your leader, come down pit road, and his outlap time, I don't have the pit stop time in front of me, but his outlap was 15 seconds slower than the likes of Jake Blackhall. So Jake Blackhall currently is about 8 seconds up the road from Jordan Weeks. Reese Garnier is exiting the pit road now, so he's going to cycle further down the order. Simon Trundle still has yet to pit.
Yeah, well, actually, and that's going to be pretty troubling because all of them have pitted.
Actually, no, he did pit.
Yeah, so, okay, I was going to say.
And he came out in front of Jake.
Then. All right, then. So how this looks as I see it, Simon Trundle, his pit stop was a 1:10. Jake Blackhall, a 1:22. Jordan Weeks, a 1:38. And then Benjamin Gregory, a 1:31. But he's quite a ways back, Benjamin Gregory. But so for your top 4, it's really staggered. There was about a 10-second difference every single pit stop, and that is kind of very, very interesting. Different strategies here, different hopes, I guess I would say, different hopes and dreams, because right now Simon Trundle is your leader. Blake Neck, who is sitting behind, is hunting right behind, and I have a feeling that he is going to be attacking Blake Neck because his teammate, Jake Blackhall, really needs that leader to be tied up.
He really does. Well, I mean, Jake Blackhall isn't the leader. Simon Trundle is the leader. So,
Yes,
I mean, you're absolutely right. So, but Simon still has the trouble with all this damage, and I'm actually really curious. We'll have to get Simon in the channel when he's done. I'll go to our vent server and shout at him to turn up, because I'm actually really curious, because he was I did some looking through, and he was only 1 mile an hour slower than Jake was on the brakes into corner number 1. And something tells me that after that contact, Cam, that Simon may have just shifted into ultra fuel saving mode, because he's not as slow as he was before that stop happened.
Yeah, and so that is, it's interesting. I think everyone's taken tires, though. Nobody's really broken that 120 bracket, so I'm pretty sure everybody is taking tires.
Well, you basically have a full stint, so that makes sense.
So this is a full stint. Everybody's kind of washed and rinsed. As if you're Blake Neck, I mean, really, what do? You can catch back up to Simon Trundle, the leader and the overall leader in the Roar before the 24. And, he's cycled back, because, I mean, your teammate Jake Blackhall's there, but is that the right thing to do from a sporting perspective to really fight? Well,
it doesn't matter, because Simon stretched the gap on him
gone
anyways.
at this point. Yeah, but I was just I think we've seen this sometimes. It depends on what team, really, because some teams, you know, if you have a GT car and you're racing in prototypes, that GT car will heckle and hassle the other prototype cars. But I think what we see most of the time is that everyone plays very nicely and respectful, and that's what I like to see, and I think that's what Blake Neck was doing, as Simon Trundle is easily clearing, and Jake Blackhall is going to now catch up to Blake Neck, and I think Blake Neck and Jake Blackhall, you know what, that's probably what they're going to do. They're going to come together, and they're going to probably draft down your overall leader, Simon Trundle.
So yeah, I mean, definitely good by Simon to somehow work this strategy, and it's going to be really tight because this time we got a better indication of what the top speed difference was. Simon had a bit of a draft the time before, but this time going in, both Simon and Jake, neither of them had draft entering one. Simon was doing 167, Jake was doing 170, so about a 3 mile an hour difference, or for those from the other side of the Atlantic or literally anywhere else in the world, about 6 to 7 kilometers an hour is the top difference between Simon Trindle and Jake Blackhall. And really at any other track, I would say that didn't matter, but this is the one track where Simon really couldn't afford that contact with earlier in the race with Kurt Crum. I mean, that contact might just be a nail in the coffin for Simon Trindle in terms of having this race. This race won. Imagine if that didn't happen. Imagine how far up the road he'd be from Jake Blackhall.
Well, how I look at this, no matter what, Simon Trindle is not going to lose the rear end of whoever gets in front of him. And when you get to that last lap, anything's possible because you can have lap traffic still coming into the situation. We got to remember there are MX-5s and Mustangs perusing all sorts of around the track. We still actually have a grand total of 38 cars on track. And by the way, just as a quick shout out to the iRacing service, they listened to the fans and they said, hey, you know what, we can cram more cars into this. There are only a maximum of 43 pit stalls, but we know you can fit more in here due to the new shared stall feature on iRacing. It's not really that new anymore. So they pushed it so we could have 60 cars. So even with all of the retirements, we still have a very, very busy racing track. And that's it's a good thing for us. I don't necessarily know if it's a good thing for the guys in the Kias and whatnot, but overall, I mean, for Jake Blackhall, he's already passed Blake Neck. I'm
1.7 seconds quicker than Simon he was that time around.
Well, I'm kind of surprised. Maybe Blake Neck can't keep the same speed as Jake Blackhall because, he's overdoing his tires, I think Blake is. Because I was going to say, because those two teammates, you would buddy them together and you would work together and hunt down Simon Trindle. I almost think at this point, Simon Trindle, Jake Blackhall, doesn't need any help, as Simon Trindle seems to be getting caught into the clutches fairly easily.
And simply put, that's just going to be the top speed because 3 miles an hour doesn't sound like a lot, but when you factor that in, it's not just top speed that Simon is losing. He's also losing acceleration. So all the way down from the moment you come back up onto the banking until you get on the brakes roughly now for the bus stop, you're losing time over Jake Blackhall behind. And it's going to be somewhere in the realm of 3 to 4 tenths every single time you get to that part of the track. Jake Blackhall gets a little hung up by that Mustang, but simply put, the better aero package currently, because of the lack of damage, is he's going to be able to reel in the likes of Simon Trindle eventually, and it's going to happen quickly. Simon has to find a way to, when Jake gets to him, that he can just slot in directly behind, and Simon's going to have to find some way to either put a move on that would put Jake far enough back that the draft wouldn't matter, or he's going to have to hope that he has enough top speed that in the draft he can, one, stay behind Jake for the entirety of the lap to come to the checkered flag, and two, that he has enough top end to be able to get a nose on Jake for the win.
All right, let's take a look inside the office of Jake Blackhall as he hunts down Simon Trindle here in the closing stages of the Roar before the 24. Some 20 minutes remaining in it, this 2-hour, 24-minute event. You've got a Mustang on the left-hand side. This might trip him up. This actually it will, as that is the car of Ben Callow. That car very wide. He has to just blip the throttle a little bit, but you know what? He's going to have a fairly good entrance into International Worship too, as he's now working through. There's a pair of MX-5s. There's 3, 4 MX-5s up ahead. They're allowing them to go on through. Jake Blackhall, he's going to dive to the inside here. Will he be able to clear? He should. He should be able to have a good entrance. That front-engined Kia Optima working his way through. Actually, that lap car forces Jake Blackhall to go onto the grass, and he doesn't even care at all. He powers right on through, dips to the right, and he works his way through. A little bit of radio communication between them. I have a feeling Jake Blackhall not that much of a happy camper, as that's a Kia Optima, not a mower. Though if you're looking for sports cars that make mowers, that's Honda, not Kia. Anyways, they go into the bus stop, and it doesn't even matter, Randy. Going through this, he still managed to catch to Simon Trindle, even when he almost wrecks the car. As they all make the bus stop exit work, they go back onto the surface. Another couple of 3 cars up ahead. There's a Mustang, another Kia, and then another Mustang. So there's a pair of Mustangs that'll be coming shortly. And Randy, just taking a look at the lap times here, it was a 1:51 that last lap. and for Simon Trudell, 152 flat. So even with all that damage, Simon Trudell so very quick. We'll take a look at the lap times here, but for right now, Jake Blackhall locked onto the rear of that Kia leader.
And that time around, even with all the trouble that Jake Blackhall got into, he was 0.6 quicker than Simon was. Yes, he had the draft for the entirety of the oval, but I mean, it normally if Simon didn't have the damage he had, it wouldn't be that big of a gap as they go into the International Horseshoe now. And this is the point where Simon has to get tactical, because he has to let Jake's going to pass Simon. There's absolutely no question about it. 3 mile/hour advantage without draft, that's going to equate to probably 7 to 8 miles an hour with the draft as they go into one. Frankly, Jake's just going to blow by before they ever get onto the brakes into turn one if he ever gets the opportunity. And for that reason, Simon has one job, and that is to ensure that he cleanly and very, very easily slips in right behind Jake Blackhall, because Simon has one chance, I think, of winning this race. And that's a last lap draft shootout coming to the checkered flag, and he needs to ensure he's in second for that, because he's just going to lose it if Jake just hangs back there.
I almost worried that if he pulled out to make the pass, that wall of air would hit his front nose and it would just slow him down enough. Yeah, you know what? That my second point that I was going to make. Maybe Jake Blackhall doesn't have the fuel to get to the finish. I'm sure he does. I'm sure everybody's okay on fuel. But he might have to spend a couple of laps, a couple of good minutes here, making Simon Trudell use more fuel and save fuel himself for the finish. And I have a feeling for right now, Jake Blackhall, he is the winner-elect, I have to say, in the Royal before the 24, simply because, well, he's already going to the outside. He's not going to wait at all. Okay, ignore everything I'm going to say. Put yourself right up to that lead, which he easily does. You don't normally see that in the Kias. That is just how much damage that Simon Trudell Kia has. I almost wonder, Randy, would it have been worth it when that last pit stop to let the crew go at it and try to fix that thing?
Well, the problem was for Simon is that how much of that damage would they have actually been able to repair, because
he's probably lost 30 seconds at this point.
Yeah, it would have been 20 to 30 seconds in the pit lane, and frankly, Simon needed as much of a gap as he possibly could have afforded, because, you know, yeah, you can say maybe he should have taken more repairs, but if he had taken some repairs and those repairs didn't help enough, then suddenly, instead of having that 4 to 5 second gap we saw after the pit stops, where he had that 4 to 5 second advantage, suddenly he doesn't have that advantage. Actually, we have a Miata going off the grass to get around them, and they're going to go 3 wide with that Mustang. Simon Trudell being ultra aggressive around the outside of the second International Horseshoe, and he's going to retain and get the lead back from Jake Blackhall as they come back up onto the banking. I don't think Simon is planning on being patient at all.
No, he can't be. I think that he knows he's going to lose no matter what. He is going to lose, as we're looking at a replay right now of the road course section going through the International Horseshoe. He just launched that car from orbit, pulled alongside. Everything worked out, but you know what? Here comes Jake Blackhall, just like that, right back to the front goes Blackhall. And Simon Trudell, I would not be surprised if he doesn't start tapping the back of that Jake Blackhall car. If I was
Let's
Jake,
see if he can even maintain. This is going to be the real
don't think
test.
So. That's what I was about. The point I was about to make. Jake could honestly double tap the brakes going through the bus stop, throw his speed off because he has a better acceleration, and then he doesn't have to worry about the attack. So for Jake Blackhall, certainly the one in charge is they are going to be coming upon legitimately lap traffic of Mark Aguirre.
Anyone who's ever driven the BMW in your Blancpain Sprint Series, even the Endurance Series, or in an endurance format, anyone who's ever driven the BMW here at Daytona against the likes of the Mercedes and, you know, of course, the real top-end cars, the likes of the Audi and the McLaren, knows exactly what Simon Trudell is feeling right now. Because right now, no matter what he does, he's at a disadvantage. It's just a situation of, you know, what can Simon do? He's going to have to throw a big move on Jake somewhere, I think. And we're going to have to what we're going to have to wait for, Cam, is we're going to have to see Jake get an exit out of the bus stop where he doesn't have a car in front of him. Because if he has a draft, if he has any sort of draft coming from the front of him at all, Simon Trudell simply loses. However, if coming to the checkered flag, if Jake is having to push clean air and doesn't have any draft of any sort, that's going to be Simon's one opportunity. That's going to be the only way Simon has a snowball's chance to be able to come away with the win.
And looking at MX-5s, more door-to-door banging between Sonny Cancian and Logan Clampett. These guys, all of the damage that you see, every scrape and scratch has been given by one of these two competitors. As that Benjamin Gregory Bardal 49 car goes around the inside at the International Horseshoe. But for Logan Clampett and Sonny Cancian, let's get off the lead in the Kias just for a little bit, Randy. Talk about these MX-5s. I mean, these two guys, they ran an extremely clean race, very close together. Then they had about a 5-lap span where every single lap they were beating and banging. Do you think these guys are calming down? Nope, not at all. As I think Sonny wanted to go right on the inside and push Logan out of the way. Oh, this is going to be very dramatic, and I also got to remember, if anything happens, James Stevenson and Giuseppe Iannuzzi are waiting in the wings.
Yeah, Sonny and Logan are going to get aggressive here, 100%. I mean, they've been aggressive for the past couple hours, so I'm relatively confident that they probably have faith in one another, that they can race each other hard and keep it clean. But you know Logan Clampett wants, just for bragging rights, to say that he started off 2017 with a win. Same with Sonny Cancian, as right now you see him looking to the outside of Logan as they go off of corner number 2 from, NASCAR to corner number 2, and he's Logan Clampett going to get back single file here. And actually, shout outs to Zach Novak. How long has that green MX-5 been back there just lurking? For like hours now.
Well, it hasn't been hours because we haven't been racing for hours. We've been racing for 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Listen, math is overrated.
I'm just saying, but yeah, for Zach Novak, I mean, you got to wonder. I mean, he's well behind by at least 1+ lap. I don't know if that was because of the server, but you know, he's been sitting there, he's chilling, saving his fuel, doing whatever he needs to do. Not much more you can do. And here goes Zach Novak. Will he do anything? Oh, he's gonna bump Logan Clampett. Oh boy. As he gives him a bump trap, that's actually going to push Logan Clampett to the outside. Going across the start-finish line, the ticker will go to Logan Clampett. Perhaps we might be able to see if that was the last lap right there. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But here comes Sonny Cancian also on the inside through the gears, heel and toe. Oh, it did go to Sonny. Yes, it did. So that's interesting because it was fairly obvious to me that indeed Logan's car was ahead, but perhaps where the trackers are, it was where Sonny was. Very interesting, setting this up for the final, 15 minutes, about 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes to go here at the Roar before the 24, live here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. Hello, everybody. I'm Cameron Walsh. That's Randy Chenoweth. This is going to be the last 10 minutes of the Roar before the 24 here at Daytona, and it has been an amazing event, and if you've missed any of it, shame on you. But everything seems to be racking up here.
Well, I'm sorry to cut
in. And Kias, go right ahead, Randy.
I'm sorry to cut in here, but Simon Trundle has got problems because we finally saw a point where going into corner number 1, Jake Blackhall didn't have a draft, and Simon Trundle, of course, had Jake Blackhall's draft going into corner number 1. Jake Blackhall still had a higher top speed.
Yeah, it is fairly obvious that whatever damage Simon Trundle picked up from that Kurt Crum incident is certainly terminal to that car, as basically now all that he can hope is to just drive Jake Blackhall into overdoing his tires and then hoping that lap traffic might potentially get in the way, as we are continuing to look at this battle here, as really Zach Novak every single time now has helped push Logan Clampett, as bump drafting is you wouldn't be surprised. You might be surprised to hear that bump drafting, not that unfamiliar. And actually, I think Zach Novak just got a speeding penalty going through the bus stop. So you know what? I think that might be set and squared away, as Alex Albert and Travis Davis are going to work their way through, as well as Brandon Hawkins. So a couple of speed cars coming
and
through here. Actually, the Kia lined up right next to the wall there. And here comes the Mustangs on either side, as they are scattering around your race leaders in the MX-5 division. Sonny Cancian and Logan Clampett, they're staying right alongside here. Let's see who's going to get the ticker this time by. It's Sonny Cancian still, as he's going to get that squared away. But that was, it was inspired, Randy.
Yeah, that was definitely an inspired move. And actually, I want to clarify. On the banking, when you're on the apron, that is against the rules. However, on the back straightaways, it is not the yellow line that denotes the racing surface. It is the white line. So you can go beneath that yellow line and go onto what I would consider certainly the apron on the straightaways and through the tri-oval. However, that said, around the banking, you cannot do that. But leader still, Logan Clampett to the inside through the left-hand kink. He's going to have the advantage here, but Sonny Cancian is where you want to be on the brakes for the second of the International Horseshoes. hard on the brakes as that number 1 machine. He's able to just get ahead of that 2 of Logan Clampett. We're coming up now here very shortly, Cam. We're going to have about, 5 minutes to go when they come across the line. About, 2 to 3 laps at the most.
5 minutes exactly on the ticker as I finish this sentence. So just like that, 2 hours and 19 minutes have ticked away here at the Roar before the 24. And I gotta say, if that endurance race next weekend is any preview, if this is any preview of what we could expect, it is going to be fantastic. Just as we're looking, Sonny Kanchan, I mean, the moves that he has to decide to make, Zach Novak is back. He has arrived back on the scene now, and who is he going to help? He's helped Logan Clampett so far, but is that just been in friendly competition? What is going to happen when the knuckles go down and it actually comes time to throw fists? As Sonny, hopefully not literally. Well, it's pretty impossible to do that literally anyways, but...
That's an interesting point of who does Zach Novak really want to win this race, because I'm not going to say he's going to push someone to victory. However, if he's as close as he is right now, you do get a speed bonus from the draft if there's simply a car behind you. You go faster. Oh, and here comes it with that. Was that Jake Blackhall? Yes, it is, and Simon Trundle cycling through as well. But, excuse me.
It's scary.
If Zach Novak decides to follow closely behind someone, as actually 3rd and 4th come cycling through in the Kias as well, if Zach closely follows someone as they come to the checkered flag, that might be what decides who wins this race.
It very easily could as the Kia is cycling through here. Speaking of races, Mark Aguia is trying to chase down Blake Neck. The lap times are about a second apart from Mark Aguia and Blake Neck, but you know what? Mark is right there. So a little bit of a gap between Sonny Kanchan and Logan Clampett, so let's use that opportunity to take a look around the track right now. We still got that battle in the number 46 car between Alex Albert and Travis Davis, and this is going to be a pretty important one because the leaders are going to be coming through relatively soon. It will be on the back, so you know what? It should be okay. But for Alex Albert and Travis Davis, as apparently when I said they're going to throw fists, now the chat is extraordinarily enthusiastic about that happening. Guys, I don't even think that could happen.
Mortal Kombat Simulator confirmed.
It's not even hashtag close to soon. As Alex Albert and Travis Davis, the Kia guys are going to go right to the outside. Do you think that's got to be one of the weirdest sensations, being in the Kia Optima and passing people?
Well, if you're Simon Trundle, yes, because Simon normally doesn't
Simon
pass
Trundle,
a lot of
you
people.
just lost. I think that was the race right there because he had to stop to sit behind those Mustangs. That's it.
Oh yeah, that's Jake essentially has to screw up.
Yeah, something has to happen now. He had to get on the brakes and he had to sit there. You know what? I think he realized it, and he didn't want to risk it. He didn't want to ruin their race. And if that's what he did, I got to give a hat off to him rather than trying to do something basically with a 99% chance to fail just to try to keep in touch. I think that's probably the smart move to make. He's
this 2
realizing
to go,
the
or
full damage.
no? This should be 2 to go here as Jake comes across the stripe.
1 minute
into
55, and so yeah, this is going to be 2 to go, and there's going to be a couple of seconds on the lap on the ticker. So we're probably going to have 4 or 5 seconds left in this race next time by, unless of course Jake Blackhall woes it up, which he certainly has an opportunity to do that. But I don't think he would want to do that. I think that's probably 5 seconds he would have to coast off, and that's way too close. So I would fully expect this to go another 2 laps. And just to follow on the Mustang.
Well, he would have had to done it already because
he would have had to get a couple at a time.
Yeah, because the white flag hasn't been shown yet.
Yeah. So for Ben Callow, he is currently your leader. Nathan Saxon is in second in the Mustangs. They are quite a ways away. Your battle for third is that Alex Albert and Travis Davis battle, and that's your battle that we're going to follow in the Mustangs when we get to it. But just as we're looking, there's quite a couple of good dancing pairs. Jake Blackhall, he is looking through as Logan Clampett is in the lead of the MX-5s. So he has resumed that lead. Zach Novak, is he going to help Sonny Kanchan now?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see here as they come up onto that back straightaway, and we're going to have to wait for when Sonny decides to make his move. I think he's likely going to... Actually, if you're Sonny Kanchan at this point, Cam, you might want to just sit behind Logan and wait until you come off the bus stop and come to the checkered flag. You might want to just keep yourself in that second spot. But as I say that, Sonny's going to look to the outside, and where's that going to go? Well, he looks to the middle, actually, so he's being
He doesn't want to be involved in this, I don't think, right now. But I have to say, interesting thing to note, Reese Gardner had to pit. Reese Gardner in the Kias, he ran out of fuel with less than 1 lap to go here as we're at 7.65. Whereas,
Jake didn't.
Yep. Yeah, no, Jake didn't, but for Reese Gardner, he was your 4th position running car. So will other people have fuel issues? What lap did Reese Gardner pit on beforehand? So for Jake Blackhall, there is zeros across the board, which means the next time that he goes by, this is going to be the race. So for Jake Blackhall, he has got one more trip here for the Roar before the 24. We are officially on the last lap, 2 hours, 24 minutes. Have elapsed, I believe. And as such, looking at our
Zach
MX-5s,
is pushing Logan.
Oh, okay. All right. You know what? It didn't really affect anything.
Well, but the fact that he's pushing him at all, I mean, this is going to be the white flag lap for them as well, and really this is the exciting lap to watch because we know that Jake is not going to get caught by Simon unless Jake chokes, and right now I don't think Jake's going to choke, but this is going to be an interesting last lap for you to call, Cam.
Yeah, it absolutely is. When the leader crosses the line, of course, we will always show that. That is their race that they have won. As going down the backstretch right now is Jake Blackhall. Simon Trendell relegated to the 2nd position. Jordan Weeks in 3rd, 12 seconds behind. As Ben Callow has also taken the white flag here. We will certainly keep our eyes on the MX-5s. Will the Mustang leader need to do another lap? So very interesting. If he has to do another lap, then
he's in front of Jake. No, because he's in front of Jake, so the checker's going to come out and everyone behind Jake will finish.
Okay. So we'll see here. Jake Blackhall coming across the start-finish line here. Will he have won the Roar before the 24 coming past this time by, I would imagine? Perhaps so. Nope. Actually, I believe we have one more to go. That was the checkers? Okay. Then there we go. Jake Blackhall is your race winner in that number 37 Kia. Simon Trendell will finish in the 2nd position. Everyone else now coming across the start-finish line as Ben Callow. He has actually just lost the rears. Where is... he must have crossed the start-finish line, I would imagine. Where is Logan Clampett and where is Sonny Canchin? Because that's the battle that we want to watch right now as they're in the bus stop. So they're working their way through. Logan Clampett there. He is trying to hustle and bustle. And I think, for Zach Novak, it doesn't look like he's going to be helping Sonny Canchin out at all. So... being hung out to dry, Logan Clampett is going to look like he is going to be the one that comes away with it here in the MX-5 division.
I don't know just yet. Sonny's got to run.
Let's see here. All of that time. Yes, here's the run. Did Logan Clampett run out of fuel? Yes, he completely ran out of fuel, and actually, he did the only thing that I think he had left. Rather intentionally, I have to say, but for Sonny Canchin, all right, well, I'll take it. You know what? I think that MX-5 sputtered out of fuel once, twice, 3 times, and for Logan Clampett, what a bummer. And so, just like that, the fortunes have turned, and the full irony, I don't think Sonny's car got that hurt.
That was...
interesting.
You made that sound more anticlimactic than it really was.
I didn't want to start screaming. I'm no Jake Sperry. Or Will Vincent, for that matter. Look, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Can someone just kind of rewind the tape for me a little bit? I want to see that on replay, please.
Logan 100% ran out of fuel, and I don't think Sonny really realized it because he wasn't very far off, and he was because Logan, I think, forgot he wasn't in a real car, and there's not actually liquid in the tank you can slosh around whether you're empty. So he started just essentially spamming the steering wheel, trying to get anything into the fuel pump he could. And when that happened, it slowed him down even more. And I don't think Sonny realized it. I think he was just trying to. I think Sonny probably thought that Logan was trying to defend all weird, and suddenly that gap went from 3 car lengths to 0, and Logan Clampett was flipping into the outside wall.
Yes, and Ben Callow has crossed the start-finish line as well. I thought he kind of already had crossed the start-finish line, but for Ben Callow, your number 24 Mustang, the art car coming away with it here today at the Roar before the 24. That's Ford Power, and of course the Japanese art, as apparently the good combination, as he does his best Formula D impression around the infield, but boy, this is going to be fairly interesting as far as the interviews go. So, yeah, there he goes. There's Ben Callow drifting the Mustang. Very tricky thing to do, getting one of these cars to drift. But, so why don't we look at our official results here at the Daytona Roar Before the 24. In the end, after 2 hours and 25 minutes and 38 seconds, Jake Blackhall has come away with it 3.8 seconds behind with a heavily damaged Kia. Wondering what could have been, it was Simon Trendell. Jordan Weeks finishing 12.9 seconds behind. Benjamin Gregory and Reese Gardner finishing out your lead lap. Blake Neck will finish in 6th position. Mark Agia in 7th. Brandon Hawken in 9th. Thomas Gerstenberg in the 9th position, actually, and Kurt Crum will finish in 10th. Looking at your Mustang division, it will be no other than Ben Callow, Nathan Saxon, Alex Albert, Travis Davis, Arrow Nom, who was, of course, I have to say, the fastest. One of the fastest in the Mustangs, but it just wasn't meant in the cards. Attila Papp Jr. will finish 6th in class. Jeff Jacobs in 7th. Michael Morrison in 8th. Sam Haslam in 9th. Jeff Tyler in 10th. Riley Blythe with his damaged car will finish in 11th. Kyle Young in the 12th position. Nate Franklin in 13th. And Dan Carrick-Constantis will finish in the 14th position in your Mustangs. In the MX-5 division, it was conkers pretty much all race long between Logan Clampett and Sonny Canchin, but running out of fuel and with only one option, Logan Clampett ended up into the wall at the end of the Roar Before the 24. Sonny Canchin will come away with the victory. James Stevenson will finish in 2nd. Giuseppe Iannucci will finish in the 3rd position. Gresham Wagner in 4th. Logan Clampett will drive that car home in the 5th position. Ivan Fernandez in 6th. Jeremiah Morton in 7th. Richard Losper in 8th. Zach Novak in the 9th position. Cy Andra in the 10th. Craig Hunter 11th. Alec Krapser in 12th. And Garth Brock Lesby will finish in 13th. Our non-finishers, Ringo Brietz, Carlos Villegas, Juan Lopez, Dwan Burns, Jason Dunnington, Michael Schellbach, Travis Schwenke, Hibiki Yamashita, Matt Pavelski, Sven Glatzel, Dave Hoffman, Adrian Beza, Yasuta Shiriwa, and David E. Baker, and then J.B. Masita. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, just collect our thoughts, see if we can track down any racers that we can get an interview with. We'll be right back here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. You're watching the conclusion to the Roar Before the 24 hours here on iRacingLive and RaceSpotTV. So please stick with us for driver interviews. Sometimes these are the best parts.
It was more than impressive, I have to say. I mean, the track is identical to the real track. I was blown away how realistic it is. Every little bump, every little spray paint, everything is exactly like you were there at the track. It was a great experience. This is a warm-up lap now. Tires to get warmed up. The engine. Breathe a little bit here when you go through that little bump there. And then it's flat pretty much all the way through here, just about. On braking. This is the slowest part of the track. And I've done, I did many races in Formula 3, Formula 2, and then I did the very last race they did there in Group C in 1983 in the 956 Porsche. That's when Beloff got the lap record at the 6:11. I think I was second on the grid with the 6:14 or something, which was, those cars were awesome around there, of course, like any car is, that speed. This is the corner of all corners here, the Schwedenkreuz. Flat all the way into it. Trail brake all the way into the apex here, and then hard at it again to get good speed down the hill here. Mega fast down this hill here. Just jump from one apex to the next. Gotta be super precise here. It's almost exactly like the real thing. So it is certainly realistic enough to get past the very, a lot of the initial hurdles you have when you try to learn to drive a race car. So I think it's It's an excellent tool to learn how to race for sure, or learn to drive a car on a racetrack.
Back here at Daytona International Speedway, pieces of cars are just about all over this circuit, and for sometimes reasons we just can't explain. But the roar before the 24 has been completed. 2 hours, 24 minutes of some of the cleanest multi-class racing I think I have ever seen, which is a strange thing to say when your fastest car is a Kia Optima. Of course, the Kia had a great show. The Mustangs also entertaining, and the MX-5s is impressive as always. Hello, everybody. Cam Walsh, and as well as Randy Chenoweth. Alvin Yevev's helping us out, and Hugo Louis producing and on the cameras and doing, frankly, everything else. So we've got quite a few drivers here today for interview, and it should be fairly interesting. You know what? Let's see if we can start with our winner, Jake Blackhall, in the Kia Optima. The number 37 Kia. That was obviously a very good win here. Jake Blackhall joining us in the booth. And Randy, I hate to put you on the spot, but you know what? I have a feeling you two know each other just a smidgen, so I figure it'd be only fitting if you gave the driver interview for our race winner in the Kia division.
Well, good run from you here today, Mr. Blackhall, qualified in second, and, well, you had good pace pretty much all the way through, kept your nose clean, and how was the race from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Randy and Cam. It was a very interesting one race, just to get it done and trying to sort out the car during the week. Obviously, practice was a bit of a lot of laps were done trying to get it all sorted, but the car was faultless through the entire 2.4 hours, if you want to call it that. And yeah, it was interesting with the it was interesting with the traffic as well, trying to work your way through them. Sometimes you catch them in the wrong spots, and I think Jordan was in front in the second to last stint, and I just caught the traffic at the wrong time, burnt me a bit, but he made a mistake in the pit stop, so it was able to get it done in the end.
So this is the roar before the 24, and we had I think there was a total of 4 Evolution Racing Australia cars in the grid in some form or another. There was a couple Kias, couple Mustangs, couple Miatas as well, and I said there was about 4, but 2 plus 2 equals 6, so shows I didn't go to school very properly. But regardless, this is the roar before the 24. A lot of Evolution Racing Australia cars. You guys running in the 24?
Yeah, we'll be running in the 24. I'd say we'll have a C7 fully loaded, and then a couple of GT3 cars I'm hearing in the background as well that we may have running in the 24. I won't be there. I'm actually at a real race meeting. Yeah, I won't be here. I can't even commentate. It's just unfortunate. But
to be
yeah,
fair, Top Fuel though.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not Top Fuel this weekend. It's more circuit racing, so yeah, I would like to be Top Fuel. But anyway, it's one of those things, and the team have done a marvellous job behind the scenes. Ian Ford was helping me the entire time through the stint with Brenton O'Brien. Obviously, our team leader was there helping us along the way.
Well, definitely good to hear they had a good, strong weekend, and definitely good to hear that we're going to have at least 1 or 2 Evolution Racing Australia cars running in the 24 hours next week. And from that, I think I'm going to close it out because I talked to you enough as it is on Wednesday nights for the Raven Graphics Contender Series. But before I let you go, any shout-outs and anyone would you like to thank, Mr. Jake Townsend?
Well, I definitely got to give a massive shout-out to the boys at DRA for all their help. And then all our sponsors, the list continues. MPMS Racing Simulators, Logitech G for all their support and the new gear that I used tonight, which was marvellous. Maverick Welding, I think I missed one. GTI, MS Limited Edition, as well as Night Rider Designs for the paints.
Well, you have a good rest of your... Well, actually, it's 9 p.m. here. What time is it there? About
4 o'clock, so about the same time we finish Raven Graphics, if not a little bit later.
So you have a good rest of your afternoon down there where it's the summer, whereas we're going to enjoy the rest of our night here in the winter in the correct hemisphere.
Yeah, I'd rather the cold. Cheers, boys.
All right, have a good one. Jake,
Cheers.
Cam, back to you.
Alrighty, we've got quite a couple of drivers to interview here. I love that normally when we get a driver, they will just sometimes they'll put their initials, sometimes they'll just put their first name, sometimes they'll just put their last name. We're not going to interview him right now, but Alex Albert has put himself, Alex Albert 3rd place Mustang. That is the most
I think
sincere
he won.
driver
I
interview.
think he won the Miatas class. Does he not?
No. That's Sonny. But Alex Albert, third place Mustang. That is the most.
Did you not
helpful...
really catch the obvious troll?
Yeah, I did. So, anyways, Jordan Weeks, we do have. He's a Kia, so we'll interview him next. The number 52 Kia Optima. He will come up in here. And, Jordan, you had a fairly good race. Finished 12.9 seconds behind. 2 hours and 24 minutes ticked away just like that. Gotta be a weird sensation when the Kia is the fastest car out there. Jordan.
Rip.
Jordan, hello. Hello, all right, you know what? We're going to bring Alex Albert in here because I can't not ignore that name because that's so helpful. Let's get Alex up in here. Jordan can get back to us. Oh, Jordan's mic's busted, actually. You can probably just drag him up. You can talk with us. But Alex Albert, third place Mustang. Hello. I have to say, nobody in the entire time I have been a commentator has been polite enough to fill in their name as well as you have. So thumbs up for that. But yeah, Mustangs, Daytona, how'd it go?
It went well. Other than the disconnects, I had a great race. Moved up, I think, 10 positions. Battled with Travis Davis and the other huge ass guys for the majority of the race, and then Travis and his teammate pit a lap before me, and then it was a fuel mileage battle the second half of the race, and I'm just glad I was able to beat him to the line.
And yeah, pretty much you and Travis Davis all race long were pretty much like locked antlers, like deer would be, at the entire time in the Mustang fights. You're pretty much one of the pairs that were fighting pretty much, as you said, all race long. It's an odd one, I have to say. You're in the Mustang. Typically, you're the fastest car out there. And then all of a sudden, you just have these Kias blowing by on the inside and the outside, blowing past you, and that has to have been a very strange experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. We usually race the DP or the fastest class in the endurance races, so this was a first for me to have to watch my mirror the whole race.
Yeah, and how'd the Mustang do? It's a bit of an old bird at this point, but it seemed like it went fairly well, and it brought some good racing.
Yeah, as long as you are easy on the throttle and just watch the tires, it's a great car. Tire wear wasn't that bad. I was only down to about 90% at the stop, and just did a little bit of drafting. My teammate helped me there in the middle of the race and let me follow him for a little while to save fuel, so I had about a lap extra at the end.
Well, Alex, I have but one question to ask. This is the Roar before the 24. Will we be seeing you guys next week?
Oh yeah, Team Huge Ass will be there. We're bringing 2 cars to Daytona for the 24, and gonna try to win one.
All right. Well, we will wish you guys the best of luck. Alex, anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go on your third place finish here in the Mustangs?
Just all the guys, all the huge ass guys, and Jeff and Nate, especially Nate. I don't know if I could have done it without him. Thanks for the help today, mate.
Well, and with that, Alex Albert, the third place Mustang. Thank you very much for hopping in the booth with us. We will probably see you next week. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
So, with that, we're going to go to Nathan Saxon. He finished in the second position in the Mustangs. That is the number 26, the one with the Hawk Performance sponsorships on it. So, Nathan, 2 hours and 24 minutes here at Daytona. You're the middle class. How did that Mustang treat you?
It went pretty well. The only incident I really had, I got together with one Kia, but other than that, all the traffic was good and held the tires underneath it enough, but just at the end, a little bit short on fuel, just able to slide over the line.
Well, still, though, I mean, it was a fairly good race. I mean, having something like the Ford Mustang, it's a bit of an older car at this point here on iRacing, and I think a lot of people would want to see a flashier car, but it seemed perfect. I mean, you guys were able to get by the MX-5s. You guys were able to allow the Kias to get by. How did you feel the multi-class aspect went?
I think it went really well, and it was really interesting to see the Kia, how it really fit in, because we were also just about the same speed as the Miata's center of the corner. So if we got up under someone, we really couldn't finish it off until the next straightaway. And that really became an issue. I ran into, on the first stint, the group of leaders that were all fighting each other, and had to work my way through that and got out pretty well. I was racing with Dave, I believe it was, at that time before he disconnected.
Yeah, and obviously once that happened, things just kind of fell apart in the Mustang division, but still coming home in second place, a great finish here in the top split of the iRacing Roar before the 24. Will you be partaking in next week's 24?
As of now, I don't really have any plans. I don't have a big team backing me, so I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'd like to. We'll see.
Well, best of luck for you. And hey, if you need a resume or anything like that, you can just point to this race because you managed to come home in the second position in the Mustang field. Very, very strong to do that here in the top split. And anybody else you'd like to give a shout out to or thank before we let you go?
I'll give a shout out to the guy I was working with a little bit, Michael Morrison. He was also in the race, and we hung out on TeamSpeak this whole time and kept each other sane through all of that.
Right on. Well, with that, Nathan, thank you very much for hopping in the booth with us, and we wish you the very best. I hope you can you get a ride if you can get one. So, well, we'll see you later, and thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you.
All right, that was Nathan Saxton. And, well, Randy, I don't know if Jordan's fixed his mic. Let's see if Jordan's fixed his mic, and we'll see if you can get the interview on him. Jordan, hello.
Hello.
Hey, he's
His
working.
mic's fixed.
All right.
Yeah, just needed a hammer. That's all I need.
Oh, wow, that works every time. So, all right, Randy, why don't you talk to the Kia guys then? How about that?
I shall. So, Jordan, it was a pretty good run from you, from 10th on the grid up to 3rd. And first of all, let's talk about that opening run, because obviously the DC somewhat helped you kind of seal in that 3rd to a certain extent, because I believe we lost about 3 or 4 front runners when that happened. However, before that came in, you picked up, I think, 4 or 5 positions before that first stop occurred. How did you manage to get yourself through the field like that so efficiently and up into the top 5?
Well, I feel it's mainly because I feel like I'm really strong among the traffic. Seeing how the other guys were dealing with it, it's just, yeah, I felt like I was better than them through there, so I just took the opportunity and overtook them.
So, and then let's talk about the strategy a little bit, because really in terms of the strategy we saw in this race, I mean, there was all sorts of things we saw happen in the Kia through the first stops. We saw Simon Trundle went the strategy of fill up every time, but have a super short final pit stop. The likes of Blackhall and yourself kind of seemed to, you didn't necessarily short fill, but you didn't fill to the brim every single time you hit the pit lane. And then you had people like Matt Pavelski, who did a super short first pit stop to get himself up in front. What is it about the Kia that makes the strategy so dynamic and people going for all these different options and alternatives as opposed to being one option that's simply the best?
Well, there's a mix-up of strategies for this car is mainly because of how the tyres work. So the reason why I've done 2 long stints and then 1 medium stint and trying to go for the short stint, which I messed up quite a bit, adding the fuel. I think I added like 11 or 13 litres too much, which is like a heck of a lot of time through the pit stops. But I think it's just mainly playing around the tyres on how you can manage them, as these Kias will rip them apart as quickly as they can no matter how well you can look after them. But it's mainly how you can work the fuel around the tyres.
And then, obviously, we've been asking everybody, you have next week coming up the 24 hours of Daytona. You guys going to be running any cars?
Sadly, no. I got to concentrate on BES, for getting the team into the Pro Series.
Yeah, that actually, for those who are unaware, that's actually going to be a rough weekend for a lot of endurance racing teams, because those who are trying to get themselves into that Long Pond Endurance Championship, they have to run the Nürburgring race, which they either decide we do both the 24-hour and the all 3 of the 3-hour races at the Nürburgring, or we just do the 3 hours. So we might see a slight, let's say, step down in competition from what we might see in that 24, but overall it'll still be a good event. But regardless, Jordan, a good, awesome run for you today, coming home with a strong podium. Any shout-outs? Who would you like to thank?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for my team for helping me out a little bit, especially Simon Meliwish, who did a couple of laps, told me where to go with the setup. Well, the lack of setup changes, but either way, his inputs were helpful.
Well, enjoy your rest of your night, Jordan. And Cam, I'm throwing it back to you.
Alrighty, we're going to bring in Reese Gardner. As he's in that, he finished position number 5 in his Fusion Sim Racing number 51. Reese Gardner, hello. A little bit of a splash that you needed at the end of the race, but you know what? Despite that, good finish here at the Roar Before the 24. Why don't you take me through your Roar Before the 24?
Yeah, bit of a dash at the end there because I messed up the fuel calculations. I had a bit of a watch of the broadcast just before you guys dragged me up, and I heard Jordan talking about the strategies and stuff like that. The Kia takes like half a century to fill up its fuel tanks, so it means that, like, you know, 1 or 2 liters difference in the fuel you take at the stop can make quite a bit of difference to how much time you gain or lose. And I think I bit off a bit more than I could chew, and yeah, had to put in a bit more fuel at the end there. But yeah, I didn't lose any positions. P5, I'm not going to complain. Unfortunately, a big part of that was probably due to the server issues that everyone experienced during the race. But yeah, if that's my finishing position, I'll take it.
Yeah, now's we must say that those server issues, it was fairly widespread between a lot of the different splits, I believe. So whatever it wasn't just us. So hopefully the iRacing guys can figure out exactly what went down and prep it ready for the 24 hours of Daytona. And speaking of that, Fusion Sim Racing, are you guys going to be putting a car together for the 24 hours?
At the moment, it is looking like we will. We've got some guys interested in a GT3 team, and we've got a couple of guys lined up for a team in the Daytona prototype. So we'll see what happens in that regard. It's been some time since we've gotten a bit of prototype action. So yeah, we're just going to be looking out for that and getting in there and preparing for that.
Well, you know what they say, rock, paper, scissors is the ultimate decider when it comes to hard decisions like that. So, either way.
Well, the real hard decision is what you call the second corner at Spa.
See, I'm out of the loop, so I'm just going to completely ignore that.
You've not seen that video?
Yeah. Nope.
Oh, just get out of it.
Nope. So anyways, just completely going over that small, insignificant speed bump. Either way, Reese, is there anybody you would like to give a shout out to and thank before we let you go and let you go on to your day, your night, or wherever the bouts you are?
It's very much an afternoon. It's 1:25
like
p.m. over here.
Yeah. But we already
I am on the
interviewed
west
an
coast of
Australian Kim, and he
Australia, so-
said it was 4. So
Yeah, so for him it's
Yes.
1, so it's on the different side. God.
Indeed. I'm on the opposite side of the country.
Good for you.
But yeah, big thanks to the guys at Fusion Sim Racing for their assistance in getting together an alright setup for this car, which admittedly doesn't have very many setup options. Also to Dynamic Sim Racing as well for their support of our team. Dripping Paint Graphics for the new livery design. Thank you very much to everybody. And thank you for the broadcast as well, guys.
Of course, our absolute pleasure. We had a very good fun one with this. The spectators were all involved, had a very good time. Pretty much everybody's team manager was involved, and I'm sure it'll be a good one to watch back. So, Reese, thank you very much for coming in and having a chat with us. Wish you the very best, and we'll see you around.
Alright, catch you guys later.
as Reese Gardner. And of course, that leaves us with one and only, and perhaps the most controversial, I suppose. Logan Clampett is joining us here. MX5 battling pretty much all race long with Sonny Cancian. Well, why don't we go with that? Let's start with that. The entirety of the race, you were fighting with Sonny Cancian. It seemed very good until probably about half an hour to go, and then you guys really started banging doors. How was your roar before the 24?
Oh, I mean, it was perfectly fine there with about half an hour left to go, and he just started racing me dirty for some reason. I missed a shift out of turn number 2 or whatever, and then he tried turning me, and then he threw it in from like 2/10 back, and it just went on from there. And then in the bus stop deal. I remember I was on his outside one time, or the right side. I don't know what you say in road. But I'm on the right side, I have the advantage, and he's on the left side, doesn't have the advantage, and I give him plenty of room, and he just runs me off the track. Second incident in the bus stop, he had the advantage, and he just acted like I wasn't there, and pretty much almost took me out of the race. I fell back 2.5 seconds behind him.
Well, and obviously as things progressed, you guys just kept going back and forth, and yeah, you ended up looking like you were going to have a battle, but ultimately running out of fuel. Is that what happened with the car? You ran out of fuel?
Yeah, I ran out of fuel off of turn number 4 there. Obviously, he's coming up quick, and I swerved there to kind of play mind games. Let's just say I wasn't blocking him or anything, or else if I would have been blocking him, I would have moved all the way up to the wall while he was trying to make that move. I was swerving to try and mind game him to see if, he would self-spin or something, but I don't know. Racing deal, I guess. It was a fun race till then. It's just so frustrating that I run 2.5 hours of this and get nothing out of it, plus with me being sick and having a fever, it just makes it 10 times worse.
Well, I mean, you managed to keep the car together. It's being the slower class is obviously a challenge. And obviously, if you could think outside of the battle that you had with Sonny, pretty much that whole race, I mean, we normally, when we see multi-class racing, big dramas. And I have to say, it seemed fairly clean out there. Obviously, there were some incidents, but everything seemed to work fairly well.
Yeah, I mean, some of the time the faster class, if they caught us in certain parts, you just lost a ton of time and couldn't really get back up there. And yeah, I mean, I just don't know. I don't want to call anyone out here, but I don't know why they're throwing in a car 20 seconds faster compared to the slowest car.
Well, that happens in all the multi-class events.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty normal.
Like, watch any Neo event or any IMSA style event where you have the HPD prototype in a GT2 or GT3 spec class. Honestly, I've seen lap time differences north of 30 seconds that are, I would say, were more difficult than the combo we've seen.
I guess I don't really watch road racing at all, so
yeah. Well,
I have no clue what I'm doing here. I'm just
well, hey, I mean, you're well, most of all, you're probably busy getting ready for the Peak Antifreeze series, which the schedule just got announced with. But I mean, yeah, that's fairly a standard thing. You did a really good job. I mean, just going through everything, plowing around here at Daytona International. But yeah, a good battle there. Looking forward, though, obviously this is a solo event. I don't think you would be putting together a 24-hour team.
I believe it's a possibility. Nick Johnson, Dan Roper, and I may do it. I'm not sure. I don't know how I'm gonna feel, even though that's quite a ways away. But I can tell you that I'm done for the roar after that incident and being. Like, it felt like forever, those 2.5 hours. It was like, running a peak race, full, green flag runs. So I'm not too used to that. I'm used to taking breaks under caution and all this other stuff. But I mean, road racing in the Mazda, I love it. So I really wanted to race this, especially with it broadcasted by you guys tonight. So, but it was fun up until then.
Yeah, and of course, looking forward, the PK Antifreeze Series announced. There's, I believe, the schedule is changing up just a little bit. There's going to be a chase format, if I can recall correctly, from my archaic brain. So the PK Antifreeze Series kicking off in less than a month. And so I'll just we'll end on that. So next month you're going to be getting right back into that stock car. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait for it actually, because this off season is taking forever, to be honest. Most people like it. I don't. There's really nothing to do besides, see fixed and Mazda Cup and all this other stuff. So I can't wait. The chase format will be very interesting. So I'm hoping I could just do decent the whole season and try and end up at Homestead.
Well, of course, you can follow along the whole of the entire season on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive, where Logan is going to be putting on a very strong effort, hopefully. So, Logan, thanks very much for hopping in the booth with us, and we hope to see you relatively soon. Get better, and we'll hope to see you then.
Thanks, Cam.
All right. Well, Randy, that is going to just about do it. Do you have any final thoughts or perspectives here at the Roar before the 24? I have to say, for myself, this has been a very, very impressive race. I have to say, some of the cleanest multi-class racing I've really seen at this track.
Yeah, I'd argue that the race overall was very clean. We didn't really see any big, we didn't see any big incidents over the course of the race. I mean, we ended up with about 14 cars, I think, not make it to the end. And of those, I think 11 were due to the disconnect. So overall, the amount of cars that made it to the end was very, very high on average if it wasn't for that one technical hiccup. And, I think it was a very good start to 2017. And certainly the race next weekend will probably pan out much different from this one just because the format is so radically different. The cars are so radically different that there's really no parallels you could really draw. But that said, it's going to be I think it's going to be a great 24 hours of Daytona in 7 days' time. And it's going to be, I think, a great year in 2017 for the World Tour events on iRacing.
Oh, absolutely. And 2017 getting kicked off to a great start. Great battles in all three different classes and fireworks at the end. What more can you want? Of course, you're going to be able to follow along the World Tour Series events here on iRacingLive and RaceSpotTV. The schedule is out there, so you can bet your bippy we are going to be broadcasting them to the best of our abilities. And we've got some of the old classics coming in. We've even got some new races, including the a new old race, a very interesting 500-kilometer race at Road America for the Camel GT. So I'm super excited about that, but I think that's in August, so we've got a ways to go. But either way, don't forget, next week we have the proper 24 hours of Daytona. Tomorrow, we have the Gathering of Tweakers Endurance Series live from the Nürburgring. And then on Sunday, you've got the full 6-hour Neo Endurance Series live also from the Nürburgring, presented by the Digital Engineers. So with that, I'm going to tip my hat and start rolling off the credits. So thank you very much for making RaceSpotTV part of your day. And of course, we have to wish the very best to everybody here from RaceSpotTV and wish that any of those technical difficulties didn't dissuade you at all. But as things happen, they're out of our hands. But you know what? We still had a great race. We still made the most of it, and that is what you always want to do. So for myself, Cam Walsh, for Randy Chenoweth, for Alvin Nieves, for Hugo Louise, with the production and with the camera work, Istvan Bello on his cameras, and Wern Design. This has been, of course, a RaceSpotTV production. Thanks for making us part of your day, and so long from Daytona.